looks like the cat has dragged us back in your chairs for another episode of the Resurrected or Winner Is You podcast. This time, we're back in your ear holes, puffed up across the streams, and bring you a March Movie Madness episode to talk all things Ghostbusters, the video game remaster. That's a mouthful of a video game name, right? As well as the Ghostbusters movie, of course, since it's March Movie Madness, which some might say are all the Ghostbusters that matter. If you're new here, I'm David, and with me today, as ever, is Alex. How you doing today, Alex? Ready to rock and roll with some Ghostbusters chat?
Busting makes me feel good.
Brought strong.
Mate, I am busting every day and twice on Sundays. That's how good it makes me feel.
You've, as usual, you've brought good beer game, good t-shirt game to the podcast. Got a Yakuza t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't have any Ghostbusters merch. It's Kiryu's tattoos on the back.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I think you should get that tattoo, Alex. You've played enough of the game.
Just imagine. I'd
That'd
never
be
be allowed
great.
in the country.
No.
I certainly wouldn't be allowed in one of their little, whatever they call them, steam.
It's little steam rooms
bath
things. Yeah, steam bath things.
Don't really want to go in there anyway. Too much Japanese wang.
Yeah, they like to go around naked.
Oh, which is a Chinese name, but you understand the kind of wang I was talking about.
Oh,
Sorry,
God.
what were you saying?
Oh, God. Okay, let's just swiftly move on from that.
How am I doing?
Yeah, you doing good?
Yeah, ruddy bloody good. I went to go see my first ever screening of a theatre show in the cinema today.
What was that?
Yeah, it was the National Theatre production of Doctor Strangelove with Steve Coogan in the
brilliant! Was it good?
starring role. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Did you recommend
I really
a theatre
need.
show in the cinema? I don't think I've ever been to anything like that before.
I assume what they do is they sort of stream the thing and edit it and then just kind of re-show that every now and again, because they had the entire intermission in the middle of the film.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so it's like a 15-minute break
In a
for me
weird
to just.
way, I quite like that. If you're gonna,
Yeah, didn't hate that.
Yeah, just sort of recreate.
I went and got
the
some
theatre
popcorn out of
experience.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite cool.
it's a great film. It's a great show. I can assume it's quite keenly based on the movie, which I've not seen before,
You've got to
but
watch
have
it
always
now.
wanted to. Yeah, definitely have to watch it now. But that was kind of like a Mother's Day gift, because we were supposed to go see the show together, but my mum was ill, so we couldn't go see it in the end.
Because your mum's really into the theatre, right? She used to do some sort of theatre.
Still does.
Does she? Nice.
Yeah,
What's she been in recently?
Still does sort of theatre. Probably some Shakespeare. She's done some outdoor Shakespeare stuff recently.
Oh, so fun.
So she's big into her acting. Always has been.
How far away? Talking about outdoors, how far away are we from the annual Alex melting in his room months?
Well, don't forget. I've got my air conditioning unit that I bought last year.
Yeah, okay, so you might be
No,
fine.
I'm fine now. Yeah,
I had my
should be good.
first time outside without a jacket on this week, and that was lovely.
Yeah, I have. I mean, because of the prior years, I have had to recently replace the ear cups on my Xbox headset, and today or yesterday I had to buy a Turtle Beach PlayStation headset because my sweatiness in the summer has rinsed through all like the cups and like the leather all over them. It's just all perished.
Yeah, okay,
So I had to totally re-headset over this year.
Okay, that's interesting you say that, because similar note to that, this headset that I've got on, there was a period before I changed jobs where I would be like sitting down to write in my notepad of my to-do list, and there would just be like, it looked like grease stains on it, and I was like, what the is that? And I was like, have I just got really greasy all of a sudden? And I was like staring at my hands, trying not to touch the paper, thinking it was like my greasy hands that were doing it. Eventually realized, honestly, after about 6 months, that I was taking these earphones off and sitting them on the paper, and there was like body grease coming through the cup. So I took off the cup, and all the sponge is like slimy. So I need to figure out like how to get new cups for this, because these are just like cheap 45 quidders. So I wonder if you can get replacement ones or not. But yeah, disgusting.
Probably not.
Absolutely disgusting. So yeah, I need to get new ones, because I can't lay these on anything, because they'll just cover everything in ear grease.
Yeah,
Welcome
the official
to the pod,
place.
folks.
Yeah, the official PS5 ones are like over £100 now, so I was not going to buy that again. because they don't even do the model edition. So it's good that the Xbox one you can get official like replacement
Good,
cups, so they're at
good.
least okay. Yeah, but the PlayStation one, yeah, that's going goodbye. I got the Turtle Beach for about 60 quid, which is
Turtle
pretty good.
Beach is a good
I thought
quality
Turtle Beach
headset.
was like the headset back in the
Mhm.
2010s.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking the other day that I don't understand how I like. What was I doing? I was playing a game, and anyway, I just had this thought, and it was like, I can't believe that I used to play video games primarily without headsets. I won't play a video game without a headset on now. My
Mm.
like habits have changed so much.
Yeah, I'm very much like that. I mean, I kind of have to be because I mostly
Mhm.
play at night when everybody's asleep. So that is a massive help. But there are some games I wish I would probably play without sound in total. Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably one of those,
Mhm.
as we were talking about previously, with the way that the pawns just continually chat shit. There's no benefit to having the sound in that game. It's not even got a good soundtrack, really. So, nah.
Oh no. Oh okay.
Nah. Like, probably the Ghostbusters game after a while, once I realized how often they repeated the voice lines in that as well.
Yeah,
What was it
that's
they kept telling you to do? Take cover from
yeah.
what?
Take cover. Yeah, and there's no cover mechanic in the game whatsoever.
Yeah, and you're not being fired at. You're just ghosts are just flying at you.
I guess on that note, that's a good jumping off point, Alex. Do you want to start by giving us a bit about? I was going to say a bit about your relationship with the Ghostbusters franchise. Do you have a relationship with the Ghostbusters franchise?
Oh, baby. I would say specifically probably the first two films. um, I One of the things that I was probably most into
Hmm.
when I was a kid. I somehow vividly remember when I got bought the Ghostbusters car for birthday or
Oh, that's a
Christmas.
great. That did you also have the building that had the slime hole?
No, I always wanted it though.
Yeah, I
I
had a
always
friend
wanted
that had it,
the
and yeah,
building.
you got slime with it, and you could just like put slime in the top, and it would just drip through the whole building. Yeah, that was really cool.
A friend of mine's just been to New York and he went to that building. Actually, I can't believe when I went to New York twice, I never went there,
I had
which
that
is quite annoying.
exact thought today when I was doing research for this. Don't
Yeah.
know what I was thinking.
Um. So I'm pretty sure I probably had the film in taped off the TV VHS form,
Oh,
as most of
nice.
the movies I watched back in that era were. And I know that the dogs terrified the shit out of me.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, I really was scared of those dogs in the film. So I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, that my dad must have used, I don't know, two VHS players or something to edit a video for me, or stopped recording when he was recording it to sort of edit out
What
the
a
dogs for
legend!
me in that
What
film.
a legend!
So I'm pretty sure that it's probably, disintegrated at this point, but I'm pretty sure there was a homemade VHS of Ghostbusters sans the dog bits, so that I wouldn't get totally scared by them. Um, I think I remember liking the cartoon as well, and it's interesting that that cartoon is largely credited
I've
for
never seen it.
making the second film kind of shit, because it got the cartoon. There's a big gap, wasn't there, between Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters
Yes.
2 because the studios changed hands. Bill Murray apparently just quite appropriately ghosts everybody in between every film he's in. I think he showed up for Ghostbusters 2 on the day of the
Oh my
first
god, that'd
shoot
be
to
so
confirm he was
scary.
going to be in it.
That'd be so. Apparently, again, like through my
He
notes and
hates the
things like
second
that.
one, actually.
That's largely how he conducted his whole
Hmm.
career. He made a verbal
Hmm.
agreement and then just didn't sign a contract or anything, and just sort of turned up to do stuff.
That's
How
right. Yeah, and you'd
terrifying!
call him and he'd reply the call. He would return the call like 2 weeks later, and then you'd immediately return the call, and he'd return that call 2 weeks later.
Oh my god.
Um, but yeah, apparently the popularity of the cartoon and then the studio
So it
kind of
was
changing
really
hands,
popular, was it, the cartoon?
yeah, sort of made them. Well, the first film was obviously crazy popular as well, and then they needed to fill the gap between the two films, so they made the cartoon, which was also popular, and then it kind of made the studio have Columbia, I guess, have a rethink about the target audience of the film, and they then geared the second film way more towards children, which is why it's kind of wank.
Ah,
Um,
okay. And also,
because the first film was obviously quite adult,
yeah,
really.
it really was. I suppose that also
Swearing,
explains.
Ray getting sucked off by a ghost in his dreams.
I suppose that
Yells
also explains
unzipper.
why the sort of subsequent movies, none of them that I've seen and have any particular interest in engaging with, are all kids orientated. So they must have sort of made a decision to aim for kids at some point and just continued that all the way down.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess it makes them make sense. That makes them make sense in my head, at least.
Yeah, but yes, to answer the question succinctly, I have loved the original Ghostbusters movie for as long as I can remember. I know it very, very well. I know it to the point where my wife was like, "Why?" I watched it with her last night. Well, she went up after like 20 minutes, but she even said to me, "Like, why do you need to watch this? Sorry, you must know this film off by heart at this point. Like, you don't need to rewatch it for the podcast, do you?" Like, no, that's how an amateur would think.
It was.
I still love it.
It was a surprisingly pleasant movie. I expected to enjoy it. So like my sort of relationship with Ghostbusters, I like growing up, I absolutely loved it. I had the proton pack with the detachable like Ghostbuster.
I had that too. So what was it, like a plastic thing that you could kind of push back in again? The gun. I had the Ghostbusters
so
sort
my
of gun with it. Well,
you put the pack on and you had obviously the gun. And it made noises, I assume, when you pulled the trigger. But my gun had like almost like like those foam noodles you get in swimming pools.
Yeah,
had like one of those coming out of it, and I just instantly just ripped that off because I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
No, mine had like when you got those swords when you were a kid, and you'd like hold the sword and you'd sort of flick your wrist really hard, and the sword bit would kind of come, would like flick out. It would extend, yeah, and then you push it back in. That was what my Ghostbusters gun did, and I remember I got in trouble at the Christmas I got it because my uncle's mum was there, and she was quite old, and I was going up in her face like,
yes, Alex,
preempting her imminent transformation into a ghost.
This is what's going to happen to you.
I'm coming to get you once you snuff it, love. I'll be shushing me in the library. But yeah, I remember having that as well. Forgot about that.
Had that.
Nice reminding me.
I was a massive fan of the Ghostbusters as a kid, but like I was saying to you before we started recording, I think this is, at least as far as I could. No, in fact, that's a lie. This is probably the first time I've watched the movie since I was at uni, because I remember I had them on DVD. Wow, I had them on DVD, which means that would have been around the period I was like buying DVDs left and right. So yeah, it's been a long time since I watched the movie, and I sort of, in a nice way, sort of forgotten a lot of it. So I was sort of coming to it sort of semi-fresh. I obviously knew the big bits. Probably not appropriate for the podcast, but mate, I have got the biggest crush on young Sigourney Weaver. Holy moly, she is amazing.
Right, so this is weird because I said to Rach last night that I feel that she's quite an angular woman, and Rach was like, "Oh yeah, she's really androgynous," and I was like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
She was like, "She's certainly not an attractive woman." I was like, "I don't think that's true either." But I got to tell you, you can have Sigourney Weaver because I am fucking all about the receptionist.
I was like watching. I was like,
she's got a dirty mouth, and I like it.
Far more attractive than I remember her being. Like,
especially in the second one where she kind of grows her hair and wears glasses, which
I think in my head, always she was just sort of like an old, sort of like battle axe. But she's nothing of the sort.
She's kind of like a young battle axe, really.
Yeah. You can tell, like in like 30 years, she'll be speaking like this. Absolutely. Yeah. Like horse.
I think you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I actually went to a Halloween. Probably the only time I've ever dressed up for a Halloween party. But dressed as a Ghostbuster.
Zool.
I'm trying to find the picture so I can send it to you. Well, what does Zool look like? A fridge?
Post-coital Zool. That's what you went dressed as.
Dress up like a fridge and just be like, yeah, there is no Alex, only Zool. I am the dimension from Ghostbusters.
Every time someone opens it, you start lobbing cans of Coke and trifle at them.
Yeah, just boiling eggs in front of them.
I like that she bought some Stay Puft marshmallows when her eggs started blasting off in her kitchen table. That was a nice little...
Yeah.
There are some... I don't know if I've got these in my notes later.
They're not real, are they?
What, the Stay Puft marshmallows?
Yeah, they are real brand.
Let's have a look.
because obviously the way he says it, he's like, "It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow
Nah,
Man."
he's a fictional character, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they've made it's like their own in-universe kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
See,
fair
for
enough.
a movie called The Ghostbusters, correct me if I'm wrong,
Which it nearly wasn't called.
there are a lot of not ghosts in there. So like frying eggs on a table, nothing to do with ghosts. There's like
Yeah,
like those dog things. They kind of turn into
yeah.
ghosts later on, but they're not initially ghosts. Like the fridge thing is a portal in another dimension, which is not ghostly particularly. That's
Hmm.
sort of extraterrestrial almost. No, that's not right because that's aliens. It's
Sort of
super. It's certainly,
paradimensional,
yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
sort of supernatural. Yeah.
I watched this documentary, right, and it was I think it must have been from a DVD release or something, and it was like basically most of the people involved in the in Bill Murray wasn't there, obviously, because
It's off
who
doing
knows where he
Saturday Night
was.
Live or something.
Yeah. Um, so it
How
was like it
famous?
was really nice.
Sorry, before you go into that,
Yeah, go on.
because I'll forget otherwise. How famous was Bill Murray before Ghostbusters? So I did try to have a look at his
He must
IMDb.
have been the most
He
famous,
had
right?
made Caddyshack. That must have been a pretty big movie. And other than that, I didn't really recognize much. But apparently, sort of, he accepted the Ghostbusters role on SNL. So he was famous enough to be on SNL.
Yeah.
So
That's
famous,
that's
yeah.
where he knew that's where he knew all of them from, I
Right.
guess. Certainly Dan Aykroyd and Harold
And
Ramis for sure.
Sigourney Weaver had done Alien by this point.
Yeah, I think that she was a difficult one to convince, I think, because she or that to convince them that she was the right for the role because she had done just purely like serious horror up
Right.
until that
Okay.
point. But yeah, they said that apparently she was really good at kind of like working with Peter's character to kind of keep him in check while they were filming and stuff, and kind of brought a better character out of Venkman in those interactions that they have between each other, where Venkman's basically just a kind of relentless
I'd
horn dog.
be interested to know what their relationship is like in real life because apparently Sigourney in the video game that we're going to come up to when they were doing the rematch. No, actually, when they were making the game, they got sort of she was just not interested in being involved in the game until she found
Yeah,
out Bill Murray was involved, and then apparently she was interested. But by that point, it was sort of too late in development, and they couldn't add her. She
I
must. I
see.
wonder if she likes him.
Yeah, because he wasn't interested in the game either until he kind of got together with them to talk about something, I
Mm.
think, and they convinced him, and then he decided that he liked Ghostbusters again because of the game, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sorry,
but yeah, that
you were
documentary I
going off.
watched,
Yes.
yeah, they were all talking. So you got like Ivan Reitman, the director, and Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. So they're all like really talking. Two of them are talking about how much they enjoyed the filming process and sort of, all of that kind of stuff around the film. And Dan Aykroyd's just sat there talking about how much he actually thinks Ghost is real. And like I think like a massive conspiracy theorist guy, but I think he's like one of the cool ones who believes in like aliens and ghosts rather than, thinks 9/11 was a hoax and that Australia is not real and stuff like that. Like, he's not a crazy anti-vaxxer, but he is crazy.
Yeah, I can
And
sort of get
apparently
on board.
his original script for Ghostbusters was completely rewritten
Yes, we do.
by.
We will get to that. We will get to that.
Yeah, but apparently it was just fucking mental. Like it was all like in the future, parallel dimensions, like just crazy bollocks. Which I guess we kind of actually see more of in the game. He probably finally was like, I'm gonna do this now. There's
Yeah,
no
I'm just going to
budgetary
go for it.
constraints for a video game.
Yeah,
Fuck you. Yeah. But
yeah.
I did find that very funny that he's just sitting there, just like, because if you think about it, right, we all leave some kind of atom in the air when we die. So I think there is something in between the gaps between a neutron and a proton or something. And they're all just like, yeah, I really enjoyed working with Bill Murray. He's really funny. It's like, ghosts are real.
If someone was to pin me down and say you have to tie your David Mast to a conspiracy theorist pole, yeah, but you get to pick the conspiracy theory. The one I would plot for, but I don't believe it, would be the way that Alien explains humans being on Earth. I.e., an alien was on Earth, died, and then the bacteria got into the water. You know, when remember what movie is that? Which movie is that?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. That's it. That's the one I'd go for. I'm not going for
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd's. Or maybe he's on board with that. I like conspiracy theories from the point of just it being a bit of fun.
Yeah.
There's
They were
something
more fun. There was a more innocent age of conspiracy
Yes,
theories that
there's
we
an
have long
innocence to
passed the
it.
Rubicon of.
Yes, that's it. It's the innocence I sort of enjoy. But yeah, we're long past that. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about some of the history of Ghostbusters? So I've got a bit. Feel free to jump in at any point because there's a little bit to this. So yeah, just feel free to cut me off and jump in at any point whatsoever. So, as many of you may know this, but it's worth mentioning, the Ghostbusters movie that we know and love isn't the first outing of the Ghostbusters IP. Ghostbusters began life as a live-action TV series on CBS, shot by a production company called Filmation, that would be closed by their parent company, Group W Productions, in 1986. The Ghostbusters show that was made by them ran for just a single season, despite being CBS's second highest rated show in 1975. As a point of note, Filmation were also known for making He-Man, as well as various DC licensed TV shows, predominantly cartoons.
I think this was
what was that? You cut off there.
This was a cartoon as well.
So it became a cartoon. So series 1 was a live action show. The premise of the show is based around a trio of characters: Spencer, Tracy, and Kong. Weirdly, in this trio, Kong was the leader of the group, Spencer was his partner, and Tracy was their assistant, but also coincidentally a gorilla. But the gorilla is not called Kong; he's called Tracy.
Don't want to be calling it a Gorilla Kong. We know how that happened for Nintendo until they proved that King Kong was public domain.
In this show, they drove around in a jalopy and operated out of a rundown office with peeling wallpaper and a public payphone outside, which acted as the trio's only means of communication with clients. Each episode consisted of the same formula. In the pre-credits teaser, a ghost or monster, usually accompanied by some sort of half-witted sidekick, would manifest and vow to wreak havoc or vengeance on a particular person, city, or sometimes even the world. After the credits, Kong would then send Tracy and Spencer to a general store to get their next assignment from an unseen mysterious voice known only as Zero. The tape-recorded message was usually hidden inside an everyday object such as a bicycle, a typewriter, or a toy. In homage to Mission Impossible, the recording
I was about to say,
with Zero saying this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. After Tracy counted down the seconds, the message and often the item in which it was hidden would explode in Tracy's face.
And they had the goal to try and sue Ghostbusters. All right,
yeah. Filmation also then commissioned a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters in 1986 in an attempt to capitalize off the popularity of the 1984 movie, which we'll talk about, that we all know and love. At this time, so when the cartoon came along, the cartoon cast consisted of Jake Kong Jr., Spencer Jr., who were supposedly the sons of the live action show actors, and Tracy, who was the same gorilla from the TV series, apparently. This show followed a similar Monster of the Week theme to its predecessor and ran for a total of 65 episodes before being cancelled. Interestingly, as you've alluded to, Alex, there's also some controversy around the cartoon. So when Columbia Pictures began work on the film Ghostbusters in 1984, producers apparently overlooked the fact that Filmation had already created a live-action comedy series with the same name in 1975, which we've discussed. Columbia agreed to license the name from Filmation for $608,000 plus 1% of the profits from the movie, which ostensibly came to zero because of Hollywood accounting, I guess. This deal did not include giving Filmation the rights to make an animated series on the film. After the film became a success, Filmation offered to make an animated series, but Columbia chose instead to give the contract to DIC. Filmation then made their own animated show based on the 1975 live-action sitcom. It was released just a few days ahead of DIC's series titled
one
was
that called Ghostbusters? Yeah, so and then they had to use the real Ghostbusters for the film version.
Monkey containing Ghostbusters was called Ghostbusters, and then DIC titled their own adaptation of the movie The Real Ghostbusters to distinguish from the Filmation show.
even though they were the second Ghostbusters.
Easy, even though they're yeah, exactly. The
Yeah,
Filmation show and the DIC show aired simultaneously, which apparently left
that's wild.
audiences confused because they had similar titles and concepts. This confusion led to poor toy sales for the Filmation show. I think I had a toy monkey from the Filmation show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in
Maybe you confused your
retrospect,
parents.
yeah,
Here you go. It's that Ghostbusters thing. You're like, the monkey
I
from the film.
definitely had
What?
a video of the cartoon, and I loved it as a kid. I thought it was great.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, I like
apparently,
the real Ghostbusters.
yes, you like the real one. So in retrospect of the Filmation cartoon, the producer Lou Scheimer felt that it had been an error to produce a Ghostbusters show in direct competition to the more popular Columbia show. Who would have guessed it?
No shit.
Have you ever seen any of the cartoon or the live
I
action
know. I
show?
haven't.
I was
No.
looking at pictures of the live action show and it looks wild, man. It is odd. They go off to like castles and stuff to like fight monsters. It is
I
weird,
do.
dude.
Yeah, I like the sort of wider scope of where the ghosts are because I know that the second Ghostbusters film they were initially trying to plan on having it somewhere other than New York, and then went, nah, fuck it, New York, just do that again.
Yeah. I guess so. Well, yeah, this is a good jumping on point to the actual Ghostbusters then.
Yeah.
So it's probably safe to say that outside of those who were directly involved in the 1984 movie, there was very little faith that the movie was going to be a success. So Ghostbusters is a 1984 American supernatural comedy film. Would you agree with that? I guess that's probably a good description. Directed by Ivan, is it Reitman? R-E-I-T man?
Yeah.
And written by Dan Aykroyd, which Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. I didn't realize this is just a David thing, that Dan Aykroyd's name is spelled really weird. It's like Aykroyd.
Yeah, Aykroyd. Yeah.
So is it
There's also a band. It's like a punk band or something called Dan and Aykroyd.
I like that. That's good.
There's also a band like a guy right now, isn't there, called Bill Murray? He's quite famous, I think. But it's spelled like Bilmuri, Bill Murray. But I think he's quite big. He just does meme songs. There's a song of him like mowing his back garden, and that's the entire music video.
Meme song. So the first meme song guy I remember has got a movie coming out, and I've forgotten what his name is. And it's Harry Potter. Dan Radcliffe is playing him. What's the movie? What's the movie, Alex? Come on, I'm gonna have to look it up. Daniel Radcliffe.
Time for some. Hello, Alex. You're going to be cutting this out when you listen back to this recording. How you feeling today?
Al
you all right?
Yankovic. Oh, it came out in 2022. It's already out.
Oh, of course. Yes. Weird Al. Yeah. No, I desperately want to see that film.
Yeah, I'm kind of yeah.
I love Weird Al.
Yeah. What was I talking about? Yes. So written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis.
Apparently, while they all stayed at his house doing the rewrite of the first film, and they all got stoned apparently just for the whole weekend.
This sounds
so Dan Aykroyd had a house out in the
You're describing the Doom book.
But yeah, that's what I was going to say. I can't remember Martha's Vineyard. That's where it is. And Reitman, Aykroyd, and Ramis all went to go live with Dan Aykroyd's place for like a month. And they just got high, and it's if you substitute the drugs with pizza and Diet Coke, it is basically Doom. Yeah,
excellent.
I felt really fuzzy inside when I heard of that story. You're not going to get that anymore. That's a thing of the past.
You will not. These guys star in the movie themselves, so it stars Bill Murray, Aykroyd, and Ramis as Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler.
Ramis took a while to be convinced to actually be in it. Apparently,
did he?
Didn't want to be in it. Yeah, he just wanted to write it, and then they convinced him to actually be a Ghostbuster as well.
Interesting. Did not know that. So they played three parapsychologists who, after losing their jobs, started a ghost catcher business in New York City. I will tell you, Peter Venkman deserved to lose his job. He is a shoddy at best university lecturer.
I don't. I mean, he says he's got a PhD in psychology and parapsychology. You don't ever see that really come into evidence in any of the. He just seems like a relentless dickhead.
Just tries to hit on people.
Very smart.
And he hires a young male student to come in with the female student.
Yeah.
And just electrocutes him so he leaves. just don't invite him.
Yeah. But he can't show his whole hand straight away to the university age, which I suppose is legal, woman that he's trying to seduce.
Yes.
But
least he's not. Yeah, at least he's not like a primary school teacher. That would have been a
Yeah,
problem. That would
exactly.
have been
Yeah, exactly.
an interesting slant on the Ghostbusters.
Could you tell who you're gonna call yet?
Oh god,
Um,
brilliant.
I forgot I forgot I forgot to mention forgot to mention as well when we were talking about the we can't call it this, you can't call it that. That was a funny thing about that. I don't know if you saw that in the documentary where they had to have like loads of working names because they knew they might not be able to get Ghostbusters. So they were like they had stuff like Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Smashers.
Ghost
but they was
Smashers.
filming. They were I might have made that one up, but it's basically along those lines. Like they had to film like basically any scene where that was said like 7 or 8
Oh
times
my
to have them
god.
not say Ghostbusters until they basically forced. I think when the Columbia got bought by Coca-Cola, like the studio head of Columbia basically forced Coca-Cola to be like, look, mate, fucking just buy the rights because we're spending so long on every
Right.
scene
So
because we have to keep swapping the name out.
You've just plugged a gap here that's made things make sense. So when I was watching that documentary at the beginning, it talks about how there's a Coca-Cola executive that says we're going to lose our shirts. Like he thinks the movie's so bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick it. I was like, why are Coca-Cola getting involved? I didn't.
Yeah. So they owned Columbia Pictures for a bit, and then it went to Sony after that.
Right.
I think.
Okay. Makes sense. That makes sense. Again, like so, I obviously wrote this little bit of script before Alex shed some light on this stuff. So I'm just going to read it as I've got it because I can zig, I can't zag. But from what I can garner, Dan Aykroyd had or has a huge fascination with spirituality. He originally conceived of what would eventually become Ghostbusters with his then writing partner, John Belushi. The original premise would be that this would be a movie starring Aykroyd and Belushi in which they would travel through time and space battling supernatural threats. Unfortunately for the pair, however, the premise was deemed as financially impractical. And then John Belushi died in 1982 before anything was brought to fruition.
Oh, those drugs, they'll get you.
So was that how he died? Because all I could find was he died by accident. And then I was like, was that like falling off a ladder?
OD.
Right, okay.
Trying to fix his satellite dish on his roof. Like Tony Hayes in Alan Partridge. But no, he drug overdose, which is quite not funny.
No.
It's no, it's like coincidental that the second movie, or maybe the third movie. The third movie, no, Slimer apparently is, but right.
Fantastic.
So they wanted Slimer.
Incredibly offensive, but absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So apparently, the story goes that the main ghost they wanted to do, like Ramis and all that, said to the SFX department, which you've probably got in your notes maybe, but it was they wanted to get Industrial Light and Magic, the George Lucas company, to do that. They were busy doing an Indiana Jones film, or maybe it was Return of the Jedi. So they had to there were some breakaway people from ILM that they contracted in. So they basically had a guy make Slimer. Obviously, this is a practical model. He made like 6 or 7 different variations, but they all kind of look like the same sort of thing. But then apparently, after he'd done what he thought was the final version, like Ramis and all that said, "Oh, I'm fucking so upset that John Belushi went and OD'd himself. Can you make Slimer look like John Belushi?" And the guy just looked at it and went, "Fuck's sake. Can I really be bothered?" And then he thought, yeah, I did. He looks like John Belushi. And he showed them Slimer, and apparently they went, "Oh yeah, it does look like John Belushi. Good work." Even though he didn't do anything at all. But he just went, "Yeah, he looks like him."
I just
So
Googling him here.
agreed.
No, he doesn't look it.
Yeah. No, it doesn't at all.
Oh, so he's in Blues Brothers. I
love Blues Brothers.
As another movie I've not seen.
And he was in Animal House as well. I think it was John Belushi's kind of big thing. But for the third, so either the second or the third movie, and I'm pretty sure it's the third movie that never actually happened. They wanted to do basically what they've done now, where they wanted, it might be the second one. Anyway, they wanted like a younger team of Ghostbusters to kind of like have the reins passed to them by the current guys. And they wanted Chris Farley to be one of these like younger Ghostbusters that's in the film and then they kind of hand over the reins to this new people, this new Ghostbusters squad. But fucking
Okay.
Chris Farley OD'd as well
Oh,
in
for God's
the lead up to
sakes.
that. So they just kept getting screwed over with the casting by these like iconic comedians ODing instead of being in Ghostbusters.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't see Chris Farley as a good Ghostbuster, by the way. I don't know what they were thinking about. I love Chris Farley, but I don't
I
see him
do
running
like
about
Chris.
New York.
I very much enjoy Chris Farley. But I might be with you. I'm now looking at now I'm looking at movies that Chris Farley's in. Coneheads, that's fun.
Tommy Boy's a great film.
Wayne's World.
He was in
Anyway,
Billy Madison a little bit as well as the weird bus driver.
don't need me to start listing
Chris Farley films.
Chris Farley films. So yes, after Belushi's death, Harold Ramis was hired to help rewrite the script, and it was changed to be set, as Alex had mentioned earlier, it's set to be in New York City because that made it more realistic and also by proxy cheaper to produce. Part of
It's kind of funny that the film makes New York sort of. It kind of looks, even though there's loads of ghosts and shit, it definitely has like an idealized view of New York
yes,
as this great place. But New York in the 80s was apparently just like a really like lawless crime haven.
yeah, that would have
So
been during
it's
the
quite funny to look at it like that.
the big sort of mafia crackdown era, right?
Before I guess Trump's hair dye mate. Who's that fucking dickhead?
I
What's
was
his
trying to
name? The
remember his
mayor.
name, but yeah, I couldn't remember. Didn't want to
Yeah,
dig
that
my
before
thigh.
he kind of I mean he did a good job at gentrifying New York,
Yeah,
to be
he
fair
did.
to him. But since then he's just gone absolutely insane.
New York mayor. I'll shout it out when I remember. Anyway, yeah. So the reason I started tripping up there is I started reading the bits that you've already covered about the special effects. No, it's absolutely fine. The special effects team. So skipping that. One of the other things about the movie was that the special effects ended up being extremely expensive for the time. Cost around $30 million to produce the special effects. However, still things went ahead, and Ghostbusters was released on the 8th of June 1984 to critical acclaim and became a cultural phenomenon. It was praised for its blend of comedy, action, and horror, and Murray's performance was also often singled out for praise. It earned at least $282 million worldwide during its initial theatrical run and was the second highest grossing film in 1984 in the United States and Canada, beating out Footloose, Police Academy, Gremlins, Indiana Jones, and The Temple of Doom, losing out only to Beverly Hills Cop. Its theme song, Ghostbusters, also became a #1 hit. Alex, you said something before we started recording about Bill Murray's. So I had mentioned that Bill Murray seems to be the sort of breakout star of it when he's the only one of the three main Ghostbusters that didn't actually have anything to do with writing the script. And you said you had something to say on that. It seems like a good time to jump in here.
Oh, I think that might have been to do with Dan Aykroyd script, maybe. It was Rudy Giuliani, by the way.
Rudy Giuliani, there we go. We'll just move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so with its effect on popular culture and a dedicated fan following, the success of Ghostbusters launched a multi-billion-dollar multimedia franchise. This included the popular animated television series, which we've obviously already spoken about, The Real Ghostbusters, which came out in 1986. Its follow-up, Extreme Ghostbusters, in 1987. Video games, board games, comics, clothing, music, haunted attractions. Ghostbusters was then followed in 1989 by Ghostbusters 2, which fared less well financially and critically, and attempts to develop a second sequel, i.e. Ghostbusters 3, paused in 2014 following Ramis's death. Do you know anything about the third movie and how it was?
It has a subtitle, and it was something to do with hell, and they were going to basically end up in hell fighting the devil. So that well-known ghost.
Kind of similar, yeah, I know. Kind of similar to. I mean, like, it's not dissimilar to the game, which I guess we'll get to.
No, that's true. It's quite cool that they had the sort of Shandor stuff in that.
Yeah, I liked
in the game
Shandor in the movie because obviously I just finished the game. I was like, oh yeah, that's a nice nod.
One thing I will actually add about the Bill Murray thing is that apparently initially Winston was supposed to have like all the best lines in the film and be like the quippy quotable guy. And then they sort of rewrote the script to give Bill Murray all the good lines and made him like cut. He doesn't even come into the film until like an hour in. Apparently, he was really
yeah.
upset about that.
Was he? I was quite
Yeah,
surprised how um sort of periphery Winston was. So in
yeah.
my head as a kid, he wasn't, but like watching it back recently, he's just this sort of. He appears, he has an interview, and then you don't really hear from him again until they get put in
So he talks
prison.
about how he digs Jesus's style in a car
Yes,
for a
that's it.
bit.
In a car for a bit, and then they end up in prison for reasons I can't figure out. And he just sort of starts, I don't know, distancing himself from them.
I mean, I can understand how they ended up in prison. Well, at least the reasons why, but I can't understand why all the prisoners were standing around them, listening intently to
Oh,
their
I would.
discussion of architecture from
Right,
Shandor and how.
you need to explain to me why they're in prison then, because the shit Edge rated R superstar bursts in. They tell him not to.
You think he looks like Edge?
Yeah, they tell him
Hmm.
not to. They tell him not to turn off the ghost machine like 6 times. They then just turn off the ghost machine, which
Oh
then
well,
causes all
yeah,
the carnage. Like
yeah,
they explicitly told him not to do what he did, and then they get put to
yeah.
prison because all the ghosts got out.
Well, yeah. I mean, they get put in jail, right? They never actually get tried or
Yeah,
anything. They're
true,
just kind of
true.
in the holding
Hmm.
cell. But yes, old Dickless Walter Peck, yeah, basically blames them for what he does
The
or
mayor
makes
is
that
weird.
weird guy do.
He gives the Pope guy the such a sloppy kiss in the hand when he comes
Yeah, he
into his office.
does. He does. And what made me laugh as well is when like Venkman's giving the speech about like, oh, if you help save this city, you're going to save the lives of millions and millions of registered voters. And then the Pope just looks at him and gives him a nod, like, do it for the
Yeah.
voters. Like, why do you care about that? What's been happening? Has he been letting you off something? Eh?
Yeah.
Brushing something under the rug. All right, Mr. Pope, or whatever he was. He's not really a Pope, is he? I don't even know what he was. I don't even know what that is in America. Because he's not going to be an archbishop, or is it? I thought that
Well,
was an English thing, like a Church of England thing.
a
Here's
past.
my ignorance on
Yeah,
religion.
no idea. No idea.
Fuck it. Who cares?
So after a 2016 reboot, which would have been the female only one, right?
Yeah,
That received mixed reviews
that went
apparently.
well.
Yeah, and underperformed financially. There was a second
That was
sequel.
the most downvoted video of all time, the trailer for that, wasn't it, for a while?
Was it?
Until, have you seen how I've downvoted the Minecraft trailer is?
Oh no. What's
You
my
know,
is it okay? Is it? I so I can get on board with the Minecraft one. Is it just getting downvoted because it looks bad? Because I'm okay with that. But or
maybe.
is it
I
gone
think it might
woke
be
in some
because,
way and people are just like
oh, I think it's maybe because Jack Black is Steve, and that doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah yeah.
Why does Jack Black need to be in it? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they then had a sequel to the 1984 film Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came out in 2021.
Have you seen it?
Nope. Have you?
No, I mean, no, and I don't want to see it
No.
because it won't be as good as the first one. But one thing that I did learn from watching that documentary that we found on YouTube, which I'll put in the show notes because it's fucking awesome, is that I do actually really like how that film was directed by Ivan Reitman's son alongside Ivan Reitman as a producer right before Ivan Reitman died.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think
I didn't know that.
like a really nice thing
Yeah.
to have happened. And
Mhm.
they also had the ghost of Harold Ramis. They like did a really cool like ghost
Oh, brilliant.
version of Ramis in there. So I really like all of that sentimental shit. But the film itself it just doesn't appeal to me. I don't want to see Paul Rudd try and be Bill Murray. I don't want to.
Nah. Yeah, it's just not what I want from a Ghostbusters
Nah.
movie.
Nope.
And neither is the one that followed that, which came out in 2024, Ghostbusters Frozen.
Tropical Freeze.
Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, a friend of mine's criticism of that movie was that apparently one of the younger Ghostbusters falls in love with a ghost. Which he then said, he asked the question of, does that not just entirely defeat the point of busting any ghosts anymore? If you can actually
different kind
interact with and fall in love with ghosts, why would you bust any of them? And he said something like, if that was me, I would just bring my nan back and have me watch the house while I went on holiday and tell me if I got any letters. Don't bust my nan. She's got plants to water.
Yeah. What's the American? It's busting a nut, isn't it? Yeah. So I guess they're busting something else now.
Sure.
Or busting a ghost in a different way. Someone fell in love with Casper the Friendly Ghost as well.
Ectoplasm. Huh? Yes, they did. You're
Ghostbusters,
right.
yeah.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it? What's the girl with it? Why am I turning into my dad? I can't remember people's names
No,
anymore.
I
This is
can't
really
either.
bad. I'm getting
I
old.
can't either.
What's the girl with the big forehead that was in Adam's Family?
Wednesday Adams.
Yeah, her
Yeah, her.
in the original one though.
Not the new Wednesday.
Oh no! Oh,
Wait,
I nearly had
I'm
it
gonna
then. Christina Ricci, got
right.
it.
Christina Ricci.
Christina Ricci. Why am I talking about her?
Because she loves Casper or something.
That's it. She falls in love with Casper. There we go.
Yeah, as you're saying you're turning into your
Don't
dad.
get old,
I
listeners.
don't know if this helps. I've been like that in my entire life. I just can't recall names very well. So don't worry
I used to
about
be
it.
really good at it though. Yeah, it's upsetting me.
So yeah, just got a bunch of, I was going to say post-it notes, just notes like highlight, like bullet points. That's the word I was looking for here. Jesus Christ, yeah, don't get old. It's not worth it. The story in Ghostbusters is fine, right? It's just
Oh yeah,
it is a
yeah.
good vehicle for Bill Murray to have some quips and
for Dan Aykroyd to talk about how spooky stuff could be perceived as real and say scientist stuff.
yeah. And I will say that the opening to the movie is fantastic. In the library with the librarian, and then the things start opening, the paper starts coming out.
Would you have been shit scared by that? Because I said this to the wife while we were watching it last night, and I was like, if that happened and I was in a library and the shit started coming out of the thing, I'm not sure I'd run away from it like that little old lady did.
Because I don't believe in ghosts, I think I
Yeah,
would
exactly.
turn around and my instant reaction would be confusion. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck
it's
is
like
happening?
yeah, totally.
I also just like the sort of on that and the way, because obviously those three end up in that library because they get called later on. They go around the corner and one of the ghosts is just like standing reading a book, and their reaction to it is just yeah. And then they go up and try and speak to it. It's just their whole reaction to this, the way that they sort of take ghosts in their stride and just don't react to it. I don't know. I quite like it. And it's like sort of building
it's
on
like
that.
you've proven that this thing that everyone has ever spoken about is actually real, and you've seen it.
Yeah, you've just proven it. You've created a career for yourself. And then even that, like when Peter Venkman realizes it's Dana, aka Sigourney Weaver, is possessed, like he is chilled out.
That was Sigourney Weaver's idea, actually.
Oh, was it?
Just to be possessed, yeah.
So imagine put yourself in the position like where you meet someone, you're like, oh, they're definitely possessed. Like, would you want to even touch them? No fucking chance would I be doing that. I would be like, getting out of there.
And he gives her a very weird kiss on like the upper chest before he leaves. While she's incapacitated, I might as well get a bit.
Do you know why
he's a proper wrong'un in this?
Why is there's loads of clothes lying about the place? So she floats in the air, and then it cuts into the weird Jesus chat in the car, right? Is that when it cuts, and then it comes back? And then, Sigourney Weaver's room is a bloody mess for some reason. And
it might be because of the explosion of the wall, doesn't it? When the wall is open.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it could be. Yeah.
It's weird as well. Like, I know it's not a kids' movie. I think my DVD said it, the Blu-ray said it was 12 rated film.
Okay.
But I don't remember. I distinctly do not remember watching it as a kid and picking up on the fact that she says to Peter, "I want you inside me."
Yes, I was like,
but he says, "I was like, you've already got somebody inside there already." But like the beginning of the movie as well. It's not. I wouldn't call it a slow burn. I mean, it is if you just want to see relentless ghosts.
Yeah.
But it is quite a lot of sort of Bill Murray kind of riffing and being this like attempted suave, cool guy trying to woo ladies, and them kind of like
it's just a bit of a loser,
building up. I think they actually kind of said that like they wanted, even though Aykroyd was clearly like, I believe in ghosts wholeheartedly from the get-go, but they kind of wanted the audience to sort of go from this like disbelief in ghosts and then build up towards believing in them as the film kind of escalates towards that shit. And I kind of like the way they do that, because I think the high point of the film for me is hands down the hotel segment, where they obviously wreck the shit out of that hotel. And then it goes into that brilliant montage where Ray Parker Jr.'s song kicks in, and you see in this like the montage of them kind of like growing into these celebrities. And so there's clips of people like giving them like little Chinese like people giving them fish, to thank them for getting ghosts. And there's a lot of just sort of in the Atlantic, which is quite a weirdly topical magazine to have had pop up
Yeah, that's
in
excellent. Yeah.
the in the movie, and they're like on the front page and they're getting caricatures drawn about them, and they're getting like proper uniforms and stuff. I just love that whole bit, like the hotel segment into the montage with the song, which apparently really pissed off Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis in the News, because they sent Ray Parker Jr. Like some clips of the film, like an elongated trailer, I think, or a segment they wanted to see the song over, and they had a Huey Lewis song on that clip that they sent to Ray Parker Jr. to make the song, and he basically just took that song and then changed it a little bit. And Huey Lewis tried to sue him, but I don't actually know if he won that case or not. But then he got offered Back to the Future, and because they'd wanted Huey Lewis to do it in the first place, and he said no. Then they went and found Ray Parker Jr. But yeah, so apparently he then it jumped when he was offered Back to the Future to not like ever pass up a film soundtrack option again. But yeah, I really love that bit. Like all of the, smashing up the chandelier and pulling Bill Murray pulling the thing from the table. The flowers are still standing, and coming out like, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. Like I fucking love all of it. I love all the dialogue. I love Slimer getting slimed. That little old lady doing she's like the housekeeper, and they shoot
Oh
her. And she's
yeah,
like, "What
sure.
the hell are you doing?" Like, I just fucking love all of it. And then into the song, it's just movie magic.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely adore that.
My sort of takeaway from that I actually I really appreciate it, and I don't know, I find quite a lot of enjoyment from it, is the realization, like when you're calling the Ghostbusters to come and help you out with a ghost problem, but in most cases, certainly in that hotel, they're causing more problems than
Yeah, oh,
the
it's
ghost
so
is
good.
causing. I just love that. They're
Yeah.
just like these absolute wrecking balls.
That
Because
guy's just losing his mind
yeah.
outside, trying to keep everybody away from what's going on.
Yeah, I like that, and yeah, we'll come on to. I guess we'll come on to it in the game, but the game is also fun because it sort of sends you back to that hotel, and you just cause absolute carnage when you arrive in the hotel as well.
Did
It is the same
did you
hotel,
feel
right?
yeah, did you feel better about the game having seen that scene and being like, "I've played that. I got to do that."
I
Or
sort
did it
of,
not?
yeah. I think I've probably got an appreciation for the moments, for certain moments
Yeah.
of the game, like that
Yeah.
level. I think sort of now I've watched the movie, looking back on the game, there are a lot of sort of nice fan moments where it's just sort of giving nods to different parts of the movies throughout the game. Really like
Absolutely.
that. Um, so I think probably the answer to that question is yes and no,
Okay.
which I guess we'll get to. Um,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, well, overall we've spoken about what you think of the movie, highlights, lowlights. Is there anything that you thought the movie
Well,
could have done?
highlights.
Yeah,
Another
let's go.
highlight that we briefly mentioned before we started recording is Lewis Tully,
Oh, he's fantastic. Like
unsung MVP.
everything, every moment he has in that movie is like top tier part of that movie.
Yeah. I I I I don't even know how you script the kind of shit that he's coming out with.
Do you think
He's
he's just an
like
ad-libbing master?
I think so, because it seems like he's just got some of the funniest lines in the film, but they all go by so fast. When
Yeah,
he's just talking about like how the prices of the shrimp, and then there's two people who come into his party because he's already explained that he's only invited his clients rather than his friends, so he can claim it as a tax
yeah,
deductible party. And then he starts telling their financial situation to everybody, and he keeps locking himself out of his own apartment all the time.
yeah.
He's like, he's got incredible dialogue when he's normal Lewis, and also his mannerisms as possessed
Oh,
Vince,
fantastic!
whatever his
So
name.
good,
He's just
so
so
good.
good. His shitty hair and his glasses all skewed. He's magnificent.
I
And
enjoyed that whole section when he was like getting chased, but he thought it was a dog, then he thought it was a bear, getting chased
yeah,
through that hole, and then getting chased through Central Park. And
yeah.
I the bit it got me thinking, it was just such a unimportant part of the movie, but I was thinking about it so much, is that, like when he runs up to the restaurant and he's like banging on the window and people are just ignoring him.
Mhm.
Like when he turns around and he sees the ghost dog gargoyle thing coming at him, you never see the ghost dog gargoyle from inside the restaurant, which
You
makes me
don't?
think that
Yeah.
he's the only person that can see it. But then I was thinking back, I was like, no,
Oh, okay.
the ghost dog gargoyle busts down a door like in his
Yeah,
house,
and
and
the
it's
police was like,
whacked.
"Some guy put a cougar up
Yeah.
there."
So I was like, yeah,
But
that
what I
would
love
work.
about that is that he still slides down the window,
Yeah.
and it looks as if, I always assumed he's getting dragged by the trouser leg by the dog, but instead he just sort of slides on his own and then lies there. Good work, mate.
And I
Oh, I just love it. I love him in this.
and
I
I
think he's
love that.
amazing.
I dearly love that scene when he just goes up and starts speaking to the horse.
Oh yeah,
It's just
that's
so good.
brilliant.
It's just so funny.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
um, yeah, like I don't know, low lights. There's not really any. I think I said this to you before we started podcasting, rather than during the podcast. Like I did a Life is Strange with this. I went in, and at the beginning of the movie, I was hating Peter. I keep calling him Peter Parker,
Venkman.
Venkman.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He's problematic. He is problematic. You
yeah,
couldn't make a film with him being like that in it anymore.
but by the end of the movie, I was loving it. Like when he gets out of the car and he's like working the crowd as they're about to go up that
Yeah,
building, I'm just like, this guy is amazing. He's so
yeah,
funny. And I want to go on
yeah.
a bit of a Bill Murray movie watching spree. I think that would be quite fun.
He's in some great Wes
Groundhog
Anderson
Day is a good
movies.
one.
I love Groundhog Day. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, some of his like later work with Wes Anderson's really good.
Yeah.
The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is definitely worth a watch.
I'll maybe do
I
that.
really
One
like him
thing
in that.
my friend and I, Scott, used to like in doing from time to time was we would sort of, it was back when I was buying DVDs left and right, is we would sort
Mhm.
of like, right, it was payday, we're going into Aberdeen, we'd go into Aberdeen together with like a budget, and then we'd go to HMV and we'd pick a theme. So it'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or horror or
Oh yeah,
WWE
that's cool.
wrestlers, and we had to buy as many DVDs as we could within that theme. So like
Nice.
one of them was WWE wrestlers, and we bought a Triple H movie where he was just some sort of guy that had just got out of prison, was trying to meet his son. And then we bought
Was that the one
one.
where he's like a bus driver or
Yeah,
something?
that's it. The
Yeah,
John Cena movie, The Marine. Watched that. There's
yeah.
a Kane movie where he's basically just like Jason.
See No Evil. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Then
terrible.
there's like a what's it, like a battle royale film with Stone Cold Steve Austin in it. We watched
Oh
that as well.
yeah, yeah. That's on an island, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was so fun just picking a theme and just going to movies, and then we'd just come home and sit and watch the movies all night with a pizza or something. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. I tell you one of the lowlights, the very few that I can think of, and this is not really a low light. It's just sort of a question more than anything. Why? I don't know. It feels like potentially the Gozer scene is slightly rushed. With Gozer, it's an actress from it's from like Russia or somewhere,
Okay,
where
yeah,
she's
I
kind
know
of
a
like
bit.
on the
Hmm.
rooftop, and she does she's dressed like David Bowie, and
There is a good
she has the
line from
cool
Peter
line
though,
of
shoot
like,
her in the flat top.
that might be Ray who says that actually when he says aim for the
Is
flat
it?
top. He gave himself one good line in the film. Yeah, I did like that part. But yeah, obviously the bit where "Are you a god?" Apparently, I don't know if it was this one. I don't think it was this one. That is not her voice. It's like they did a voiceover because she didn't speak very much
She
English.
got the old
I think
Darth Vader treatment.
yeah, and so did the guy in the painting in the second one.
Yes.
Yeah, that he acted like the whole film, and then they overdubbed his voice as well. And
Oh,
apparently he
really?
was
Gutted.
fucking fuming
Gutted.
because he walked out of the premiere that he was at because he didn't realize they changed his voice until he saw the finished thing, and he was fucking fuming.
I kept expecting him to pop up and be Zool. But yeah, like so in my brain I had like melded the two movies together, I think.
Yes, yeah, but that just seems like they kind of rushed. They rushed through that because that was all done on a big soundstage somewhere. That whole bit you can kind of tell. I really like how like some of the sort of nascent stage SFX that you see in these movies. This movie rather is that they're like, really charming. I like a lot of the proton pack lasery stuff, but the bit where they're on the top of that building, I'm almost certain it's just like a drawing behind the stage. They've just got like a set and someone's just painted buildings.
Yes,
It's
yes.
so
Yeah, it's
obviously
so
hand
bad.
drawn.
I guess when it was on VHS, it was probably easier to just sort of phone that shit in.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be so obvious.
Yeah, but it's like, so yeah, she asks them if they're a god. You say yes! And he doesn't say yes. And she says the die bit. Then they shoot her with the lasers, and then she disappears, and that's basically
She's
it.
gone.
And
Yeah.
also,
Yeah, it
the dogs
wraps
go
up
and sit in
fast.
front of her. Yeah, the dogs sit in front of her. They don't do anything. What was the
No.
point of them? They've just
To
like
chase Lewis
they've
through the park, I guess.
yeah, they were relentless for him. But once the actual enemy's there, they just sit politely, and then she just stands there looking at them, gives them a bit of a zap, and then they get back up, and she just lets them walk towards her,
Yeah.
and then disappears, and makes them choose the distractor, and then it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man,
Lewis and Dana
which is obviously
definitely had
iconic
sex,
and
right?
brilliant. Huh?
Lewis and Dana definitely had sex because there's a bit where like they sit up off of a bench and Lewis's belt is
Oh,
undone and
oh,
stuff.
yeah. I guess, yeah. That's not credited to be because the second film obviously has the baby in it. It's not apparently his or Peter Venkman's, although I believe, yeah, because I'm pretty sure in the second film Dana is supposed to have been married and divorced within 5 years and
Excellent,
had a kid,
excellent.
little baby Oscar. Yeah, wonder
And
where that kid is now.
is there a ghost blowjob scene in that in Ghostbusters 2?
Well, it's a I don't know, but obviously, there's the dream sequence with Ray where he dreams that he's getting sucked off by the ghost, and
That's
his
it. That's it.
trousers unzip themselves, and he falls out of bed. Again, that was probably cut out of the one I watched when I was a kid, because if it was on like ITV or whatever, they'd have cut that out.
I was thinking, is that the old
Pre-Watershed.
Alex's dad cut it out and
It
the
might have been
editing
him
the
cutting that
editing
out.
technique?
I doubt he wanted to cut that part out.
Can
You
you
got to let
remember
him
the
end the
first time
name.
you remember anything being cut out of a movie? Because I can. So I remember when I was younger, the Hocus Pocus movie. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, when that came out, I remember like really enjoying that film, watching it on video over and over again, and then it came out on TV. I sat and watched it, and they cut out the hanging scene. Just didn't have it whatsoever, and I was like, "What is gone?"
I think for me,
The South Park, also the game that sent me over the edge.
oh well, yeah, well,
Gave
that
me a
was
rage
way
spiral.
later. I remember, I remember when I had the DVD release of Billy Madison, the Adam Sandler film, and
What a movie!
there's a bit with a clown, and I don't remember what exactly happens to this clown, but he basically falls over.
Mm-hmm.
In the American version, the clown sets on fire at some
Oh
point.
my god!
And I remember seeing, like, when I was in Aberdeen, my girlfriend at the time, her dad was American, so they had a lot of American stuff. So they had the American DVD of that, and I remember watching that with her and seeing and being like, "That scene's not in the movie. What is that?" So I remember that one. That was cut out of a DVD release, which I think is mad.
Yeah,
And then also Uncle Buck. I remember there's a scene where he knocks over some. And I love John Candy as well. While we're talking about people who could have been Ghostbusters, because he was one of the ones who could have been. It was considered for the movie. He says shit at one point in that film, and I remember whenever that was on TV, that was cut out, and I didn't see that until it was on DVD. And of course, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, another John Candy film. The whole scene with Steve Martin saying, "I want a fucking car." That bit's not on any TV release either. So that's some censorship, but that's network TV censorship. So I guess that's to be expected. Again, it's pre-Watershed. They want kids to watch it.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I reckon this would have had some censorship if it was on TV back in the day to make it like a PG.
Yeah.
Because I was watching it as a kid, and it's a 12 rated one. I was not 12 when I was watching it. I was like 4, well, maybe not 4, but like 5 or 6. And then they're making the cartoon and stuff. So, and I was too scared of the dogs, which, I needn't be, because they're just going to sit there.
They're just gonna sit there, unless you're Lewis, then they'll chase you through the park.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a dead man.
Yeah, I guess just for the final time, they are not ghosts. But they become ghosts. They break out of an actual gargoyle. So at that point, they're not ghosts. They come out of the inside of a bit of stone.
Yeah, so I don't really
There's
understand.
Too many non-ghosts in Ghostbusters, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah. So there's the ghosts are not ghosts, but then also the screen time of anything spooky in that film is so minimal.
Yeah.
It's mostly just like the SNL lads have it, like talking about God knows what shit, and Walter Peck being called Nicholas.
The only other thing,
what actually happens with those dogs? Do they turn into the dogs? But then when they get covered in marshmallow, they crumble and you can break out. What are they doing?
Because she comes out of one of the dogs.
Yeah, because you see them transform,
Yeah, and
like
also,
almost literally transform into the dog, but then they break out of the dog's outer shell later. That's a bit of
yeah,
a I don't understand that.
because they're after they've killed everyone. There is it. Ray's walking up and he's like, "Oh, smells like dead dog or like fried dog or something," and then he's like, "Oh, sorry, Peter, I've totally forgot." And then you're like, "Oh
Oh,
yeah, Dana turned
yeah,
into a dog."
yeah. Do
Then
you
she busts
reckon,
out of it.
with Bill Murray's um reticence to be in any films apparently, including this one, do you reckon there was some sort of contractual or on the day Bill Murray can't be asked to get totally covered in marshmallow
I did
slime, so
think it
he's
was
just going to
funny
have
how
a little bit on his
uncovered he
jumper?
was. Yeah, he had a little bit
Yeah,
on his jumper and like a little bit on the back of his head. And other than that,
yeah, yeah.
everybody
You
was
guys could do all that.
absolutely covered. Yeah, he
Yeah,
must have just gone absolutely not doing that.
yeah. I'm the star of the film.
Yeah,
Keep my face on the screen, please. Dan, you can get covered in ghost jizz.
but yeah, like overall, absolutely great movie. It's what a
Oh,
lovely
an,
time.
an absolute goat of a film.
And I tell you, next year I'll be pushing for another 80s movie. I just think 80s that sort of era, 80s movies are just so good, so good, right
What
across the
have we
board.
got?
Well,
What have we
I
got?
actually put a post on BlueSky saying that how much I loved 80s movies, and then I put a post under it listing some 80s movies that I could think up.
Oh,
So
did you?
yeah, so I'll list some for you. None of these may not have games, however, these are all 80s movies. Gremlins, Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones, Beverly Hills Cop, Full Metal Jacket, The Goonies, Lost Boys, Breakfast Club, Big, E.T., Back to the Future, Die
Big.
Hard, Commando, Predator, The Land Before Time, Batman, Roger Rabbit, Twins, Robocop, Lethal Weapon, Blade Runner, Bill and Ted,
Yeah.
Terminator. I don't think I said that one. So many good movies, but there must be more. There must be more games of
I
good
would
movies.
happily watch Die Hard and then play a load of Die Hard games.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
if you would touch Die Hard trilogy again and give it another shot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And now
that
I
might be next
wonder,
year's
see,
one.
now that I've got that Wii sensor, is there
Mhm.
a light gun you can get to attach to that to play the Die Hard game?
I don't know if it would
I wonder
work
if there's a mod.
with the Die Hard. I mean, I now own a PS1, a CRT, a PS1 gun con, and the original Die Hard trilogy to play that as a light gun segment.
Maybe by next year, that's me.
Yeah.
I've got a PS1. I just all I need, and I think I've got Die Hard. All I need is a
Yeah, you
light
will
gun
have.
and a CRT.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you
Then
need.
I can fall down a CRT, a
I
light
don't know
gun
if Tom
hole.
Thumb's listening. If you've got another one out there, mate, to give away for free, David will have it.
I'll drive all the way down. I'll
Play the Scarface game.
Yes.
Don't need a light gun for that.
Yes.
But he does
So
have
many.
Wii remote gestures for the chainsaw killings.
Have you on that? Have you? If you haven't watched the most recent G-Man video when he's talking about Call of Duty games, the non sort of main event Call of Duty games, and he talks about the Wii.
What fuck? I'm glad I already own most of those, like
Yeah.
Big Red One and all that, because he can
Yes.
fuck off
He was
with
talking about
tempting
Big
my
Red.
wallet every bloody week.
I remember Big Red One, because my friend had it. We were all playing, like, it came out, like, I remember it was at Call of Duty 2 or something came out, and then my friend still had a PS2, and he was sitting playing Big Red One. And I was like, that game actually looks great. But yeah, he starts talking about the Wii while you're over there. He starts talking about the Wii Call of Duty games, and there's like motion controls, and he's like, I don't even understand what it's
Oh
telling me to do,
yeah.
and it's like two fists just with two arrows pointing forward.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have. Oh, so it's Call of Duty 2, Big Red One.
Okay.
But I also have Call of Duty Finest Hour.
Finest Hour was meant to be pretty good as well.
Well, we've got some stuff scheduled for November this year because of Remembrance. That was my way to shoehorn in playing some World War II games. So I might jump into that because I think we've got Call of Duty
Call
2
of
scheduled.
Duty.
Call of Duty. So I might
Yeah, I'm into that idea.
play these other Finest Hour Big Red ones because I've never played these before.
I've long had a desire to sort of go on a Call of Duty mission and just sort of chug through the Call of Duty games. So yeah, I might pick a good few of those and because they're nice and short, the campaign, so I think you can like bash a few of them out, and most of them are good fun.
Yeah.
Even the bad ones are fairly competent. And I'd like to go back to Call of Duty 3 as an adult.
Agreed.
See what I think about it, because I hated it back in the day.
Yeah, it's not got a good rep.
No, I may have a new. I doubt it. But yeah, I'd like to try again. Anyway, well, we'd move on and chat a little bit about the Ghostbusters, the video game remastered. So I got a little bit of a blurb here. I do have some. We'll get to it when we get to it, but I do have some story stuff. But I kind of wonder that when we get to it, it may not be worth chatting about. The story's pretty simple. You are the new guy, and it's basically a who's who, what's what of the Ghostbusters franchise up to that point. And
basically,
there's really not much to it. Yeah, it's sort of retelling stuff. It's touching on stuff that has already been touched on. But yeah, we can get to that and discuss it, see how we feel about it.
When the Ghostbusters themselves are saying stuff like, they fucking shut off our containment grid again. Walter Peck did it again. Like, come on, boys. It was nice to see him back, and I thought that guy acted the shit out of his scenes that he had in it. And the mayor.
He did. That's another thing I've got
so much of it is exactly the same. It's
like seeing actually how sort of got a now sort of having finished watching the movie, I've got a real sort of like fond respect almost for how many of the original cast they managed to get to come back. And actually, if I had been playing this game and had the appreciation for that when it came out, how cool a thing it would have been to see a lot of the cast come back together and work together again. That's a really cool thing that sort of went over my head when I was playing it.
And it can't happen again, which is kind of why I said to you, like, this is basically the most perfect Ghostbusters game that's ever going to exist. Yeah, because they can't make another one like that. Yeah.
So yes, the Ghostbusters, the video game, was originally released in 2009. The game is classed as an action-adventure title developed by a development company called Terminal Reality, who are known for such blockbusting games as the Blood Rain series, The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, Def Jam Rap Star, as well as a number of titles that I honestly didn't even recognize.
And that's not a Def Jam fighting game either, is it? That's like a SingStar version.
Oh, so you're actually just rapping, right? Okay,
I think so.
That's the only reason I included it. I was like, I recognize the Def Jam label, so I'll stick that in there as an example of a game they've done.
You can hear me typing, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a SingStar rip-off.
That's okay. The version that Alex and I played was the remaster, which was released in 2019.
Was the original game first brought out for the Wii and then ported to 360 and PS3? Is that how it worked?
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure it was initially developed for the Wii, right?
I believe that's true. So yeah, it came out in the Wii, but the original game was also available on PC, PS2, PS3, PSP. Also had a version, as did the DS.
What?
I believe the PSP and the DS, and like Alex was saying, I think the Wii was the original version. The PSP and the DS had different developers again, and then the PC, the PS2, and the PS3 and the 360 were all sort of developed by someone else. The remastered version. So I'll say that again because that was a bit garbled. The 2019 making the versions of this game are playable on PC, PS2, PS3, PSP, 360, Wii, DS, with the remastered version appearing on PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. So there's a lot of ways you can play this game. Yeah. The game follows the player's character known only as the Recruit and is set in 1991, 2 years after the events of Ghostbusters 2 movie, with the Ghostbusters team training the player's character while investigating paranormal activities in New York City. Alex, it's probably a good time. Let's just dive in. What did you think of this game? What's your overall feelings of Ghostbusters remastered, the video game remastered? It's a mouthful of a fucking title, man.
Well, after I decided that, after I binned off the PS4 version, because on my PS5 my character was relentlessly walking backwards without any input from me, and multiple restarts of the PS5 and of the controller would still just walk backwards without any input. So then I had to get it on PC, which I got on CD keys for £2.29. So not the worst thing in the world. No. Looked a lot better on the PC as well.
Yeah, you did.
I think this game is an absolute nailed on, just about 7 out of 10. It has some faults. It has some antiquated gameplay, but I just cannot hate it because it, like I said, it is everything that a Ghostbusters game could conceivably be. And the only thing you could do to better this is tighten it up a little bit. Maybe make it look nicer and maybe make the enemies a bit more interesting rather than so like relentlessly repeated throughout. Just make it more of a Luigi's Mansion style. Here's a signature ghost that you've got to trap, and here's another one, and they're like a puzzle fight rather than just kind of wave after wave of mobs of ghosts coming at you, which just gets a bit tiresome by the end. But there's something about having to take the ghost's health down, then change your proton stream to like the capture a snare one or whatever it is, smash the bastard into the wall a few times, press a button to chuck out your trap, and then pull them over the trap and kind of keep them into it, keep them over it while it traps them, and retrieve your trap itself, which is like that's the perfect kind of gameplay Ghostbuster loop that they nailed right there. And it's just a shame that that is actually not the most repeated loop in the game, because a lot
Yeah.
of it, as I said, is just shooting ghosts until they die or disappear. You don't catch that many. You don't catch really even the boss ones. They just are defeated. So that was a real shame. I probably would have liked to have driven Ecto 1, which we didn't talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
during the film, but Ecto 1 is one of the coolest movie cars ever.
Yes.
The siren apparently is the sound of like a Jaguar roaring reversed and sped up, which is
Oh,
sick.
interesting.
Because
Okay.
I love that, like, nyeh, nyeh. I love that
It
noise.
it
That
raised a
siren noise fills
question
me with
actually
joy.
when I was playing the game. It raises a question that I was like, oh, I need to ask Alex about this. He might know. When they towards the sort of latter third of the game, when you drive on this sort of speedboat into
Oh, yeah.
the underwater area, there's a sign on that that calls it Ecto 4. Are
Oh,
there
okay.
different, like, is there an Ecto 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, is there
Oh,
an
it's like
Ecto 2?
Thunderbirds.
Yeah, so I was like, is there like a bunch of different stuff? Do they have like an Ecto
Ah.
2 that's like a bicycle or something? I don't know.
I know that the in the films they had to have two. Um, they had like a backup one. I think one of them kind of like crapped out on them during either the first or second film, so they had to bring in a third one. But I don't think that's part of the actual canon because
So
that was more of a
Ecto
filming concept.
so Ecto 2, so you're saying, so I did say Ecto, there's an Ecto 2 car. So Ecto 1 and 2 are cars. Ecto
Right.
3 is a compact motorized unicycle and a sidecar that
What?
slips into a secret compartment in the Ecto 1's rear fender. This seems to be cartoon.
Okay.
So yeah,
Motorized unicycle.
with a sidecar,
Wow.
which is excellent. Let's see if there's
Yeah.
an Ecto. So Ecto 4, I think, should be the boat. Yeah, Ecto 4 is a boat. Is there an Ecto 5? Yeah. What is Ecto 5?
I bet that's probably in one of the more recent films, isn't it?
Ecto 5, also known as Ecto M, is a modified motorbike.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool.
But Ecto 1 is cool as shit. I'm a real mark for like that sort of style of Cadillac. Like I like a lot of American muscle cars and old kind of like 50s like Chevys and stuff like that. Like I love the look and the sort of how spiky and angular those cars are. And I just love the way that Ecto 1 is one of those. Even the taxis in that film look cool.
The only American muscle car I can think, other than when I was in America, the sort of American muscle car that I've seen in the UK, there was one guy in the town I grew up in, Stonehaven, called Stevie the Heed, who used to drive about in a big, massive Chevy, and it was a really cool car.
I see a lot of Mustangs around here.
Can you guess why he was called Stevie the Heed? It's not that.
Did he get heed off someone?
He just had an absolutely massive head.
Okay, that's good then.
Yeah,
that's good then. Because there was a girl that we knew in my secondary school who gave heed to a lad in a graveyard, and she never lived that one down. So I was hoping it was something like Yeah.
or Lewis.
Yeah, she was the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That's what everybody called her. In fact, no, she was quite a big broad lass, so
Are you the
my
key
mate used to call
master?
her Kane.
Kane, okay. Big broad lass.
Yeah,
My brain
yeah, it's
went to
quite
like
kids can be so cruel.
yeah, because my head went to the egg in front of Jesus's door that rolled out the way
But in a
in
graveyard.
a
Come
graveyard.
on. Have some fucking
Are
respect.
you the key master?
I am the gatekeeper. That's
Um,
great as well, which is like, are you the key master?
no,
Pete says no,
slams the
slams the
door
door.
shut. Oh, so good.
Ghost has got some sass.
What did I think of this game? I've got very mixed feelings and actually quite difficult feelings because I sort of broadly agree with you and disagree with you. Trying to think about because we've gone a tangent now, and what you said was about 10 minutes ago.
It's an incredibly ugly game, isn't it?
It's an incredibly ugly game. I had some really bad bugs as well that were
Yeah, you did.
pretty awful, to be honest. I had like did you get, and maybe, I don't know, because I restarted this game like 4 times and I still got it. Like the audio, the voices were, other than in cutscenes, they were
No,
totally
I
fine.
never got
In the
that.
game, it was echoed the whole time. Could you
No,
hear it in my
no.
game, or was it just coming across in my
No.
ears? Oh, it was awful. It was awful. I had to also restart numerous levels because like geometry would just get in my way, or the Ghostbusters that were with you would obviously have to trigger a cutscene, and they just wouldn't walk.
Oh, I saw the
places.
one with Ray was just like stuck on a
Yeah.
tanker that had been tipped over.
That happened
Yeah, I
numerous
remember that.
times, and there was other ones who, like I
The
finished a
AI is
level.
absolute piss in this
Yeah,
game.
and they were
It's
just
so
standing
bad.
still, not moving. That happened so many times.
It was like I got caught in a loop so often of like I'd get downed, and then without any tactical knowledge whatsoever, like one of the AI would just run to try and save me. And then in the process of that would get downed as well because I was still being attacked. And then a third one would come over and he would get downed, and there'd be one guy left, and eventually he would just die. And I died so many times in this game. This game's actually pretty tough.
There was periods of the game that
unfair more than tough.
Yeah, because
really.
there was periods of the game I spent like literal minutes just running between Ghostbusters, getting them up. Because when they start getting down, you can't afford to leave them downed and just get on with the game. Because if you get downed, like sometimes the checkpoint, and it was brutal, I found. In the game, it would put you back pretty far.
There's no manual save or anything like that, so yeah, you're kind of fucked in that regard.
Yeah, but yeah, sometimes it was really hard. I sort of agree with you in that, like, for what it was, like if I can sort of get on board with the decision to make the game how they made it, in terms of the gameplay loops and stuff like that, I'm not sure they could have made it any better than what they did. I guess
I don't think so.
Carry on. You were to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I don't think so either.
I guess where I sort of come down on it is I'm not sure they should have made the game like that. So then, like, to try and be constructive rather than just criticize it. I guess like my critique of that means that, like, I think there became a certain point in the game where what I like about the Ghostbusters game is that it was something nice and different in that you weren't just doing like a Gears of War thing where you're moving from point to point, or even a Halo or whatever, just a shooter thing, shooting stuff, which is what video games do all the time. I felt there was a certain point where you could have replaced the what's it called? The backpack.
Proton pack.
The proton pack with a gun, and it wouldn't have made any difference to the gameplay whatsoever. Like, there was that.
You said when they introduced the machine gun, basically,
Yeah.
when they had already given you a shotgun on top of that as well.
Yeah, I just sort of felt that, yeah, it just made me feel like I was using a gun masquerading as something different.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then, as I said earlier, at that point, you're not catching ghosts at all. It's just waves of enemies, and you're just shotgunning them. And at that point, he's right. It doesn't feel like anything specifically bespoke about Ghostbusters about it.
Now that I've watched the movie and I've got a sort of fresh take on it, I can see why they've done what they've done. While I was playing the game, I found myself wishing they had made more of an experience out of ghost hunting. Because in the movies, they don't really hunt ghosts at all. The ghosts sort of present themselves really overtly, and then they just go and get zapped, which is exactly what you do in the game. However, if I was making a game that I thought were compelling, I think it would have been fun to put a bit more of a focus on the investigative parts of it and try and make people hunt out the ghosts and even like
Yeah.
it's like this is a bit of
Which
an
they do a
off.
few
They
times because
do
they have a bit you've got to follow through some darker areas to find one, and then there's that fucking broken mirror bit that I didn't understand.
that bit was odd for
That was
me. I
just
don't.
shit.
Yeah.
Made no sense.
The bit that sort of jumped to mind, and maybe they did do this to an extent, maybe I'm not being fair, but the thing that jumped to mind to me was I remember when The Witcher 3 came out, it was amazing. And The Witcher 2 as well, to be fair. When those games came out, I found it amazing that you would encounter a ghost in a town. You'd speak, you'd pick up a quest, go into the town, and you speak to someone in the town, and then they tell you you have a ghost, and you'd have to go and look up the compendium or whatever, the bestiary, and sort
Yeah.
of like almost find the symptoms. It's like, oh, these are the things that it's doing, which means I think this is what the type of ghost is, which would then sort of give you an idea of how you're supposed to fight it.
Yeah, like, I need
I
to use
like,
these oils and
yes, it
potions and
needs to be
things,
at
yeah.
night. I need to use this potions. I need to
Yeah.
put this magical field down. I think you could have made a cool Ghostbusters game out of that by doing something a
Yeah,
bit
agree.
more in depth and, like I say, like actual ghost hunting. But I'd also fully appreciate that's not what the game's going for. The game is going for, hey, this is Ghostbusters. Here's the actors. Remember these guys. Remember this bit from the movies. And
Yeah.
they're just sort of trying to remind you of all those stuff. So yeah, so I guess to try
And
and
like I said to you when you were playing it, it's from peak Gears
yeah,
era of
yes,
games, and there's so like it's got the roadie run in it. Like it just kind of it's got the AI companions, it's got shooting mechanics that are kind of like it's got the the things on the floor that enemies are going to come out that you can close with shooting it with slime.
yeah,
Like it does really feel like they just kind of pulled a lot from what was big at the time and shoehorned the Ghostbusters into it. And then they found a few mechanics that made it feel like Ghostbusters, and then they
yes.
kind of just gave up on it.
Yeah, certainly. And like when you're right, like trapping the ghost is great fun. When you get the slam thing is really good.
Mm,
I found myself thinking, so like we had sort of touched on it before when I was sort of Googling around other Ghostbusters games that had come out. And then there's the one that's sort of Left for Dead. I don't, it didn't seem to have been received very well, but in
mm.
theory, I like the idea of a sort of co-op for like you and I jumping into a Ghostbusters game, say like releasing periodic content, almost like a raid, and then be able to like go in, make your own Ghostbuster, go and take on your own missions, team up with your friends, go out and hunt ghosts. I like the idea of that in theory for a game. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm saying like I don't necessarily feel like I like the game. I've got an appreciation for it now that I've watched the movie because I get what it's shooting for. I just think it's just a shooter masquerading as something else ultimately, which I think is I don't know, is a little bit of a shame because I think it could have been much more. But it's in a way that's perfect because now that we're speaking about the whole Ghostbusters franchise, I maybe other than the first movie, maybe feel like that about the entire Ghostbusters franchise. It could have been so
Mhm.
much more than it is. And it's a bit of a
Yeah.
shame because it could have been. It's such a cool franchise that it's just been under delivered or under catered for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily find it very funny. It
No, not really.
the humor, the strength of the gags in the game. There was
Does
a
it
few.
feel old? I'm trying to think like what because like the first movie that we just watched is very funny, and it's written
Yeah,
by the same
definitely.
people.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
what's
whether
gone? What's
they
changed? Is it old? Are they
because it's
just
not
out of date? Like what's gone?
yeah, I don't because it's not like they've not managed to get the fully authentic, cast or whatever. They're all
Yeah,
there.
they've done it.
It's not like they can be like, "Oh, let's just phone it
It's
in because
missing two characters.
it's just Dan Aykroyd or whatever." So, I'll fuck it. I'll just bang something out for this stupid game that I don't believe in. They clearly believed in it. They got Bill Murray to come back for it when, as we said, you couldn't even find the guy half the time. So,
My presumption
you know,
is Dana was supposed to be the female character that's in the game,
oh,
and
that's
then
oh yeah. I forgot that she was even in it. That weird, horrible wax-like woman. When they didn't bother to do an
yeah,
actual face scan of a human, they just animated some blob. Yeah, I forgot about her. She's like what was she? The daughter of No,
Can't remember.
She's a descendant of something to do with
She was
Sandor, I think, or whatever.
so yeah, basically she was a sort of
Oh,
lightning
she's
rod
just
for
a
the
me
ghosts. Other
she's
than that, she did
she's a
nothing.
MacGuffin, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
She's just a
exactly
mechanic.
that.
Um, so I don't whether they're just not
Is it like the South
it
Park thing and nobody sat them down? You know, like people that aren't they're
well,
movie
yeah.
writers, they're not game
I was
direct.
That's what I was thinking, like, thinking about the South Park game, like, they they basically made South Park kind of feels like they made an episode of the show and then dudes had to build a game after all of this stuff. Ghostbusters feels like they made a script for a video game, not a movie, and they
Mhm.
kind of didn't realize that they could have just I don't know. It does feel like they kind of thought of it as like secondary in its importance to the canon, even though they added in all this like fan service and extended lore and it kind of followed on from stuff. It almost feels like they just didn't put their best efforts into the actual script. That just getting them there and doing the voices and letting you catch ghosts was enough. And at times it does feel like enough because you kind of like walking along and oh yeah, Bill
Yeah.
Murray and Dan Aykroyd are talking to me. This is kind of fun. I'm going to catch this ghost in a minute. But when you kind of sit back and listen to what they're saying, like barely any of it was really funny or even sort of cleverly written. It was very basic. You know, there
Yeah.
were a couple of jokes. I think I said to you like the bit where they're about to like try and melt a door down, and Egon says, "Oh, I've got a better idea," and then just opens the door.
Yeah,
The
that's
bit with
good.
the TV but with the TV's kind of bent over and then it cuts to them. Every single one of them is leaning to look at it at the same time. You like the bit where the rookie guy's kind of cutting down the tree.
Yep.
Um, I don't understand. Well, we can let's talk about that actually. I'll ask you your feelings on it. Like how did you feel about being a nameless, voiceless character when you could have just played a ghost? Why couldn't I just pick one of the four? Gears of War, I'm
Yeah.
picking Coltrane, or I'm being forced to pick Coltrane or Baird or Dom or Marcus. And if I'm playing co-op, somebody will be one of those as well. There's no co-op in this game as far as I'm aware, right? It's just a single player game.
So
Your mate
there
can't
is
jump in and beat
multiplayer
Bill
in the game,
Murray.
or in the
Yeah, but you can't play
original.
the campaign
No,
co-op, right?
no, no,
Well,
not at all.
that's a missed opportunity as well.
I would even
I
be
really
against.
don't understand why I have to be this rookie character. I did not get that.
I don't get what I guess I'm trying to think, put myself in their sort of shoes. My assumption would be is they're trying to create an everyman character because he's so blank, he's so generic looking, he doesn't
Yeah.
speak. Like it's an everyman character, and with the idea that you can sort of transplant yourself onto it. When it comes to an IP like that,
Let
though,
me customize him then.
yeah, when it comes
I
to
don't
an
have
IP like
blonde
that,
hair.
I'm totally fine with you just letting me be the characters. Like you could even break it out in it's like this mission you're Peter Venkman, this mission you're Winston, this
Yeah.
mission you're Ray, this mission you're Egon.
Yeah.
Like that would have been fun, and it would have allowed those characters to have um some sort of screen time where they could sort of
Yeah.
like stretch their legs. There is it may be in my notes later on, but I'm sure I've read or watched somewhere that part of the stipulation that Bill Murray was going to be involved in the game was that all the Ghostbusters characters, main characters like the Ghostbusters, all got equal screen time. Now, if you had just
Mm.
allowed yourself to be a character, say it was like, oh, what is there, four of them? Four missions, four sort of acts, sorry, with missions within that, and you played a different Ghostbuster in each act. Perfect, job done. And you could have
Yeah. That's equal screen time, right?
you could have finished as Peter, and that would have been like the culmination. You get the wisecracker at the end. Yeah, I don't know why they made you some no-namer idiot. That yeah, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
Because I mean, if you look back to the era that Ghostbusters was released, there was obviously not a massive burgeoning video game scene certainly in America in 1984, but um, by 1989 for Ghostbusters 2, there obviously was. And at that point, like if you had a movie licensed game, you were playing as the character from the
Yeah,
film.
yeah, yeah.
But then it just seems like we got to this stage where
Imagine
we
getting a
pushed further
Spider-Man
on, and
game
it's
where you're just not Spider-Man.
yeah, you're Peter Parker's mate, that little fucking the Asian kid that he
No
hangs out with in the
powers.
modern
Yeah.
ones, and you get to do his little computer shit for him. Um, like when did we get to a stage where people thought like, how about you can be in the Ghostbusters? But it's not me though, is it?
It's
Because I
not.
can't make a bald bearded man. I have to play some blonde American dude. some dumpy twat in the back. Like, okay, but why can't I just be Egon, please,
Yeah.
or whatever?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
fully
why
with you.
did you just? I don't get it.
And if they're going to do that, let you have some character creation.
Yeah,
Choose a color
yeah,
of your stream,
yeah.
mess with your
Instead,
proton.
he's just a totally silent guy. Weird.
One thing I actually haven't mentioned that I probably should have mentioned is one thing that I like to see when you changed your proton power. It
Mm.
did a nice visual representation of that in your proton pack. So like when you had your
Yes.
little, was it the green one? You had a little antenna that would come up, and then you press a different one, and like a little bit would come out of the side. Yeah, that was really well done. I
That
enjoyed that.
that was a Yeah, that was a great visual.
Mhm.
Just seeing your guy in the uniform and you're just seeing this like glowing proton pack, like all walking throughout the game. Like really cool idea. On paper, I absolutely love the idea of you can see your health on the pack,
Yeah.
but you would get wrecked so
Oh, so
easily.
quickly it made
It
no
meant
difference that you could
nothing.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I haven't got time to look at the fucking proton pack because you're throwing 28 enemies at me all at once that all require different streams to kill. Some of them are in the air, and most of them can disappear and reappear somewhere else. There's no radar for me to actually like track where these fuckers are going.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Mm.
Next on my list of things to say, I've got that many many of the movies cast. We've probably touched on a lot of this, but yeah, like I say, many of the movies cast members were involved in the games production. Each of the actors who portrayed the Ghostbusters in the film lent their voices and likenesses to the game in-game characters, which we've just discussed, which we like. Um, it's
Yeah,
also Ramus's final portrayal as Egon Spengler.
it is.
Um,
Yeah.
and story to the Ghostbusters franchise before his death in 2014. And the game's remastered edition is posthumously dedicated to him.
Yes,
Aykroyd
it is.
and Ramis, which I think is actually quite nice. It's quite nice.
Of course.
And it's one of these things
He's a
that
legend.
it's partly why I'm sort of interested in whether um, Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray like each other is because there seems like more than ever there seems to be a sort of genuine relationship between all these people who made this movie,
Yeah.
and it's part of the thing that sort of retrospectively makes me enjoy Ghostbusters. That a lot of these guys are just good mates, just hanging out,
I
making a movie
also
together. It's great.
Yeah. I also just really love Dan Aykroyd's enduring, like, love for this franchise that he created.
Yeah.
Like, he still feels like it seems like if you want to find out stuff about Ghostbusters or see somebody publicly talking about it, like Dan Aykroyd will do it at like in a moment's notice. He will continue to talk about Ghostbusters because obviously he has all these theories about ghosts being
Yeah.
real. He's really into that kind of shit. He's written most of it. The dude just loves being a Ghostbuster and having created it, and I really respect that he has that connection to this franchise that he created, and he seems to be so proud of it,
Mhm.
even if it's not always very good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Got a
As
lot
we
of time for Aykroyd.
yeah, as we sort of touched on, Aykroyd and Ramis, who wrote the films, also aided in the script writing for the game. Other film cast members to reprise the roles were also William Atherton and Annie Potts. Ghostbusters, the video game, contains the soundtrack for the original Ghostbusters film, along with various characters, locations, props, features in the films. Aykroyd later described the game as being essentially the third movie.
Yes, he did. That's something we can definitely give it respect for. Like, although we said it's a very ugly game, like just allowing you to revisit all these areas from the film
Mhm.
again, towards the end, it kind of devolves into here's a sewer bit that's very grey and here's
Yep.
a graveyard that's very dark.
Yeah.
But prior to that, like being in Times Square and the hotel and whatever, that was really cool. The soundtrack was obviously spot on because it had all the music from the films to listen to.
I will say the
Um,
main theme I felt like was underutilized. I could have heard that. I could have done with hearing
it's
that more.
that was a complaint you had for Indiana Jones as well, isn't it? They do seem to
Yeah.
just try and like punctuate the almost the end of these things with now you get to hear the real song you want to hear because you've beaten the game. One thing I actually do think was underutilized, like massively underutilized, even though it kind of almost implied that you could do whatever you want, was the firehouse because you
I was going to
started
say that
before every
there's
mission.
no reason to
It,
explore. They should have given you reasons to look
yes,
around.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's always like press, go to Ecto 1 when you're ready to leave. And we both of us at one point we were just sat there and just said like, why would I not be? What am I doing in here? I can look at the picture of that fucking what is his name?
That guy.
Carpathian or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
that guy
I
from
can look at
2.
Slimer in this
Yeah.
cabinet. I
In
can
his
go and
in his cabinet,
pretend.
yeah.
Yeah, I can pretend that I'm playing this arcade game of Cuba, even though I'm
Yeah, I
not.
was gutted they didn't
I
have
can,
Cuba in the game because like Peter's sitting playing arcade games. I was like, oh, have they got Qbert in this? Because they've obviously got
yeah,
the rights to write Qbert on it, so stick the fucking game in.
yeah. Can I play pool? No. Can you go down the pole? You can go down the
You can
pole.
go down
That's
the
the
pole,
one
yeah.
thing you can do. And you could listen to Annie Potts phoning it the fuck in, answering the phone.
Yeah.
And that's about it. What a wasted opportunity. I mean, I don't know what more you would really do in the firehouse. Maybe do some paperwork,
Yeah.
file the receipts from all the busting that you've done. I don't know. Did you
Maybe
also
maybe
find
they did, and I just didn't look. But they could have
maybe?
tied some achievements to it to make you sort of poke
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
They did obviously try and put some Easter eggs in there and stuff, but it was minimal. Um, did you ever figure out? Because I never did. There was
Almost certainly
clearly a
not.
system. There's clearly a system of when you're shooting ghosts and catching them and all that wank, you're getting money somehow,
Yes.
and that will allow you to upgrade stuff. Again, I quite like the upgrading of things. I like, even though some of them were just guns. I think I said to you when we were chatting while you were playing it on Twitch that they tried to branch out from just the proton pack. I respect the thought process behind that to try
Yeah.
and keep things fresh. It just led to gameplay that
Well, that's
wasn't
the
as
thing.
good as
Is
when you
like
just had a
I agree
proton
with
pack.
you. I expect the process of keeping it fresh, but I feel like a lot of the cases in doing it made it feel completely unfresh. It just made it into a
Yeah,
shooter.
yeah, they did. But I found at multiple points, like if I shot something in the scenery or the background or whatever, like in the hotel, if I shot a vase, it would bring up a money thing on the screen as if I was being deducted money because I've been, breaking stuff for collateral damage or whatever. But I never seem to lose the money that I
No, neither
had in
did I.
my
No.
upgrade thing. But honestly, anyone who hasn't played the game, if you do, take a look at that. Every time you shoot anything that's not a ghost, you'll get a money thing come up on the screen like, oh, $50 because you shot a phone box. From where? Do I owe you? You're not taking it from the game, so I don't understand what that system was doing. I
No.
also don't understand why shooting a ghost in a sewer gets me $50. I don't know who's giving me that. Is it just wired to me from the state?
Insurance.
I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
state. Dickman. Peckerman.
Yeah,
Peckman.
Pecker. Yeah,
I him.
yeah,
Um,
that twat.
yeah,
He has
overall,
no dick.
you said you gave the game received generally favorable reviews from critics, um, and apparently more than 3 million copies of the game was sold, which is pretty decent for that sort of era.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, it's on a lot of platforms,
Yeah,
but so they spread themselves pretty wide, and yeah, but that's a good amount.
you
But I
said you.
said it was a 7. Maybe I'll give it a 6.9 because I
Yeah,
don't
so
think it's
I'm
quite
thinking.
a 7.
I was thinking like 6 to 6.5. So we're in
Yeah,
the same ballpark
yeah,
ish.
yeah. I
Um,
felt I felt comfy while playing it. It's obviously hectic and kind of a stressful gameplay loop of just like fuck you, loads of ghosts. But there was
it,
something nice
it
about
was
like,
hectic.
yeah, I'm a Ghostbuster. This is cool. Here's the music.
So I feel like
There's all
that
the
now. I've
Ghostbusters
watched the
talking.
movie. Certainly, obviously, didn't feel
Yeah,
like that at the time, which is sort of an interesting um
yeah,
juxtaposition. The correct word. Who knows?
yeah,
Yeah, backpack powers with proton pack powers. We're talking about, like I say, it's essentially a third
yeah,
person shooter. I quite liked the changing to first person when you had to open up your sensor and run about and try and
yeah.
find stuff. I sort of
That
enjoyed.
felt a bit underbaked as well.
Yeah, it did. The bits I enjoyed of the collectibles, there were some of them that I sort of clocked that were sort of Easter eggs from
A
the
few of
movies.
them I kind of
Quite
understood the
yeah,
reference to. Yeah,
quite like that. One thing we've not really spoken about, which is excellent, was the physics in the game. I thought
oh
it was
yes,
pretty great. Just the destructible environments for its time were pretty good, to be honest.
yeah. Considering it was a Wii game to start
Yeah,
with, well, I don't know how much they improved of that for the remaster, but it did feel like you were kind of actively hindering yourself at times if you smashed stuff in the way. And of course, you could move stuff out of the way by using the grapple beam
Yes.
to just pick it up
Yeah.
and chuck shit, which was great fun. I had some really good fun moments where I just stopped playing the game properly and just started lobbing things around a room at all the other Ghostbusters to try to see if I could knock them out or whatever.
I did find it funny, like when the Ghostbusters got downed. Like there was something I found really funny about when Peter in the movie gets slimed and you go around the corner, he's just sort of lying like a
I
corpse,
hate
like pencil
I don't hate
corpse.
that bit, but it's just clearly like Murray's not doing any stunts. I
No,
will be lying
I'll just
prone,
lie
covered
down
in
and not
slime.
move.
That's it.
Yeah.
You will not see this happen to me
Every
whatsoever.
time a Ghostbuster gets down, you look round and they're doing that thing. It's almost like the proton pack's so heavy they can't get their arse back up. So you just got to pull them back
Yeah.
up a bit.
But the ragdoll physics before they're lying there are always hilarious. They're just
Yeah.
terribly bad.
Yeah.
Like just not quite right, but they look really funny.
But yeah, like we touched on it earlier about how I very much appreciated the fact that, especially at the start of the game, the Ghostbusters cause more carnage than the ghosts, and if the physics
Yeah.
engine wasn't sort of as good as it is, that wouldn't be as effective. So I do
Yeah,
think that
agreed.
probably deserves note.
It
Like you say,
does.
catching the ghosts is fun when it allows you to do it, especially when you get the slam and you can sort of slam them right in the hole. That's pretty satisfying.
The slam dunk trap is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, saves a lot of time.
Yeah, like I said, using your sensor, the first person, the ghost variety is pretty good. I think there's quite
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
different ghosts. I like, especially like
Can't tell
it's
what any of them are. They're just blue
no,
or red or green, but
yeah. Especially at the beginning of the game. That's one thing the game did not do well. Is sort of visual cues are pretty poor. I think. Um,
yeah.
you sort of like you. I think you said it to me when I was playing on Twitch. You basically got to rely on the audio cues, and that's
To
bang on.
tell you what to do
Yeah,
to fight the ghosts. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You can use the scanner or whatever, but
yeah.
that was not easy to
I
do in a
also
pinch because
felt,
basically every ghost just comes straight at you at a
yeah.
million miles an hour,
I also felt, and
and there'll be 20 of them.
maybe this isn't true, but the way I felt was that, like when your fellow Ghostbusters would get downed, you got like a little circle on your screen that would have an arrow pointing. I felt like the circles moved around my screen.
Mhm,
So like if it
mm.
was always in the bottom left and you could see who'd be down, and it would just go in a line and you could just follow, that'd be fine. But sometimes I'd look and it'd be like in the top middle of my screen or the top left, and like because of that,
Yes.
I never noticed it happening sometimes, and then I'd die and realize that we're all down.
Yeah, because 2 of the Ghostbusters are still shouting stuff at you. Ghosts are making a hell of a lot of noise. You're firing off a gun, and s I think Dan Aykroyd's one was probably one of the worst voice lines in the whole game. It'd be just sort of like, I'm down, help. I'm
Yeah,
down, help." Like, no urgency to his voice or, like, terror or anything, so it just gets lost in all the noise, of
yeah,
which there was always a lot.
yeah.
Ghosts
Um,
relatively do anything other than scream, apparently.
and yeah, like I said, it's great for nods to fans of the series. It does a lot of like, oh, remember this, remember that. That's great. Slimer's in it.
Yeah,
It's got all
yeah.
the sort of big ticket stuff. Like I said, I do have
I
a
mean, you
bit.
get to shoot the off Marshmallow Man off the side of the
Yeah,
building,
right,
so
almost right at the start. Yeah, yeah.
if
What
you're a
else?
fan of the movies, you kinda have if you're a big fan of them, you have to play this game. Just don't expect it to be anything other than sort of a 6, as we've already
Yeah,
said.
exactly. Like I said, I do have a bit about the story, but I genuinely don't think we need to go into it. It's pretty
It's
basic.
not.
It's just a,
Yeah,
it's
just
a
think of what Ghostbusters story is. It's basically that again.
yeah. I've got a little bit about the development, so I guess we can move on to
Okay.
that. So in 2006, game developer Zootfly started work on the Ghostbusters game before having secured the rights to develop the game from Sony. The,
Oh,
com-
yeah.
the company subsequently released videos of an early version of the game. The company was unable to secure the rights to develop the Ghostbusters game, so they continued to develop the game as a non-Ghostbusters game, Ghostbusters themed game under the name Time O. So let's have a look at this. Time O, according to Giant
Timo
Bomb.
Werner.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So Time O.
Wish he was the ghost.
Yeah.
That's not nice.
Is an action adventure game by about two New York City urban explorers who discover an entrance to a parallel world in which they must battle to survive encounters of armies of hostile robots and malevolent ambulatory buildings. It was cancelled and never came out, and
Oh, right, I was gonna say,
looks
I wonder if that exists.
pretty awful. So in Giant Bomb, there are some sort of gameplay pictures. Um, yeah, maybe check that. I'll maybe send Alex a link so you can include it in the show notes if you want to have a look at yourself. Coincidentally, in 2007, Vivendi Games and developer Terminal Reality met with Sony Pictures to discuss the possibility of developing their own Ghostbusters video game. The positive reaction that Zootfly's video game videos garnered helped sell the concept of a game to Sony. After a
Mm.
successful pitch, Terminal Reality started developing the game, eventually stating that the PlayStation 3 would be the lead development platform. One feature of the game that Terminal Reality promoted was a crowd artificial intelligence system um, to be used extensively for a Thanksgiving Day parade level that was eventually cut from the video, the final version of the game. I couldn't find out anything more about that, so that's kind of all
The
you've
first I've
got.
heard of that,
Yeah,
but that's the key concept of the game, and they never even
yeah,
used
never
that
even
one
made it.
part.
The game was officially announced by Vivendi Games subsidiary Sierra Entertainment and Sony Pictures Consumer Products on November the 19th, 2007, and would be released for all major platforms within fall of 2008. Development of the game went into limbo when Vivendi Games' merger with Activision to form Activision Blizzard was finalized on July 28, 2008. Activision Blizzard announced that only 5 Sierra titles would be published through the Activision, with Ghostbusters not being one of them. The Sierra PR team later confirmed that the game was not and would not be cancelled. So then in October 2008, Infogrames, the parent company of Atari and Atari Interactive, announced that they had picked up the publishing rights to Ghostbusters and the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. That's another game I want to play and come
Me
back to
too.
at some point. To coincide with the 25th anniversary of the film's theatrical release. Infogrames' announcement ended months of speculation. At the 2009 Consumer Electronics Show, Sony confirmed that the game would be released on June the 16th in North America and June 19th in Europe, alongside Blu-ray releases of the Ghostbusters films. And in May
Hmm.
2009, Atari sold the European publishing rights to the PlayStation versions of the game to Sony Computer Entertainment Europe for a June 2009 timed exclusive release on the PS3 and PS2, and an autumn release on the PSP, respectively. Atari,
PS2, did you say?
yep, came out on PS2.
Oh, okay.
Atari Europe announced they would still release the Wii and Xbox 360 versions and DS versions in the regions following Namco Bandai's Games purchase of Atari European operations and distribution handling over the Namco Bandai partners. This release schedule remained intact. Essentially, what I've got here is just there's a lot of buying
So
and
it's,
selling of companies that really messed
yeah,
about with
so
developing the game. So actually, the fact that this game came out in the state it did, is kind
yeah.
of a win, right? It's not a total
Yeah, I guess it
disaster.
wasn't a Wii game either
So
initially.
so it was. And then like you say, Sony bought rebought the rights to the game,
Hmm.
and then sort of made it a PS3 main thing.
Yeah.
Terminal Reality reported total development costs between 50 million and 20 million US dollars. Terminal Reality has expressed interest in making a game based on the possible third Ghostbusters film, though the studio has since shut down since then. I wonder if that's sort of then why Dan Aykroyd has then called it the third. Yeah, it's a bit of a.
Yeah,
I
I think so.
started encountering some sort of mixed messages with that.
Yeah, it's just been it was that proposed development of the third Ghostbusters movie went on for so long, almost a decade, I think,
Mhm.
that yeah, it's so protracted and confusing and messy that I guess no one truly knows exactly what the
Yeah,
fuck the canon order goes with this, and then the Afterlife ones. It's probably they probably don't necessarily. I don't know. I wonder if they look back on it and still think, yeah, no, this is what we think is the third film, because that was always the selling point I heard.
yeah.
It's oh
No, I agree
yeah,
with you. That's what I'd
Aykroyd's
heard
rec
as well.
third one. Yeah,
And it's kind of a lot of what I had heard in my research and watching the documentary and stuff. Yeah, same. Sigourney Weaver had initially turned down the offer to reply. As I've mentioned this before, but yeah, Sigourney Weaver had initially turned down the offer to reprise her role as Dana when approached by Terminal Reality, but showed interest when she learned that Bill Murray was attached to the project. At this time, the game was too far into the production, and there was no role for Weaver. Similarly, the team was interested in getting Rick Moranis to reprise his role as Lewis Tully, but he declined the offer. Despite the lack of
yeah.
character.
Apparently, he really hated the second one as well.
Oh, did he? Yeah, I'm not
Yeah, he
surprised.
just didn't want anything to do with Ghostbusters after that. There's a quote attributed to him somewhere as well. And I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like, why would I want to do the same thing that I did 30 years ago again?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally agree. Despite the lack of character roles and involvement from Weaver and Moranis, Dana and Lewis are still mentioned in the game. I don't remember
Oh, I
Lewis
don't
being
remember that.
mentioned. I remember Dana being mentioned. I don't remember Lewis being mentioned.
No, me neither. Don't remember that at all.
In the
Oh well,
remastered
I'd have
version,
probably marked out for that.
yeah, Harold Ramis was remembered at the end of the game's opening titles following his death in 2014, which we've discussed. I've got a question here. Do you think it's and this? I think
Not
this
a drug
is
overdose.
no.
Just
Um,
worth pointing out.
this is the reason I'm asking this question is because I think it's quite a complicated question that there's no necessarily right or easy answer. Do you think it's the game is faithful to Ghostbusters, given the whole Ghostbusters franchise as a whole, as taken as a whole? Because I couldn't decide.
Yeah,
I think it
immensely
feels faithful
faithful because I don't
in
count
a way.
the last three,
Yeah,
so it's faithful to the
I'm
ones
just
I
not
care
sure
about.
what again because of the most recent three movies. I'm not sure what Ghostbusters actually is.
Well, they didn't exist at the time, did they? Any of them?
No, no, that's true. So what existed when this game came out? One and two.
Just the first two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess in that regard, yes, it is. Do you
it's
think
more faithful than the last three films have been.
do you think we'll ever get another Ghostbusters game?
Well, we have had some, haven't we? Because there
Yeah,
was
so I
that
was
one
just
that
away
got
to Google.
absolutely shit on for that sort of top-down twin stick shooter one that
Yes.
like was one of the worst games of the year, like about 5 years ago. And there's that one that Left 4 Dead one you just talked about.
There's lots of
I don't,
Ghostbusters games. There
I
is.
don't think they're done milking this yet in the game space, but
Do you know what? The next one will probably be some sort of Netflix mobile game.
probably they love a bit of that.
Yeah. Say we've got Ghostbusters 1984, which I know Jeff Gerstmann is a big fan of. Then
What?
there's
As in it came out in 1984? Or it's
it came out
called
in the
Ghostbusters
Commodore 64.
1984?
No, it's called Ghostbusters. It's called
Yeah.
Ghostbusters brackets 1984. So it's
Yeah, that probably just means, yeah. It must have
yes,
been
no, yeah, you're
the
right. So
era
it
of
came
the
out in
thing.
Master System in 1987, NES in 1988,
Mm.
and then there's the real Ghostbusters, which came out in 1987, I think. And then
Is
there's
that like what's that?
this is sort of a
Or are you just seeing a
top
list?
down Zapper
Is
game.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got the Ghostbusters 2 video game. And then you've got something called New Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 1990, The Real Ghostbusters in 1983 on Game Boy, Extreme Ghostbusters. Yeah, there's a lot. There's this is a massive, massive list. I'd be speaking for days. There's even Ghostbusters Pachinko, which is quite cool. I'd like to play. When you were in Japan, did you get? I'd like a go in a pachinko machine. I think that was quite
I
fun.
don't know if we'd be allowed in there.
No, too white
I don't think so.
or non-Japanese.
Too gaijin for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there are just any good Ghostbusters games that even remotely hold up. I can see the NES one looks like a bit of a side-scrolling kind of just shoot. So recent games. What have we had in the last 5 to 10 years, Ghostbusters games wise? What
So
are
we've
the
got
most recent ones?
Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord, which came out in 2023.
Whoa,
It came out
okay.
in the Meta Quest 2. So it's a VR
Oh.
game. Then we've got
Oh god,
Ghostbusters
that looked awful.
Spirits Unleashed that came out in 2022. It came out
What's that,
on
sorry?
Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed.
That might be the one that everyone hates.
That came out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. It's apparently also got the likenesses of the actual Ghostbusters.
Oh no, actually, no, that's slightly different. That's not the one I was thinking of. That looks like an isometric multiplayer game.
Spirits Unleashed. Let's have a look.
Yeah, asymmetrical, whatever you call it. Sorry. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it doesn't look. That looks quite good fun.
Yeah, it actually doesn't look terrible, does it?
Some of it looks quite pretty. Some of
Okay, so we still haven't found that one that's dog shit then.
Right, let's go. So the one before that was Ghostbusters Afterlife, which came out in 2021. That's a mobile game.
No, obviously not that.
Lego Legacy Heroes. Ghostbusters World, which came out in 2018, mobile. Ghostbusters Slime City, mobile. Ghostbusters 2016. Could that be it? Came out in PS4 and Xbox One and PC.
Well, that must be a game of that movie of the Answer the Call thing.
3 days after it was released, their developer Fireforce filed for bankruptcy, so that went well. Then Lego Dimensions, Ghostbusters Pinball, Ghostbusters 2013 mobile, Ghostbusters Paranormal Blast mobile, Ghostbusters Sanctum of Slime came out on Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network 2011. Sanctum of Slime.
It is just the Ghostbusters 2016 one, yeah. That's the terrible one. It's just like a top-down twin stick shooter. People hate. So yeah, it's that one.
Sanctum of Slime looks weird. I'm kind of interested in that. Could be terrible, might be weirdly fun. It's sort of isometric. Probably terrible, actually. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. There aren't a lot of good ones.
So the only other thing I've got is the reception of the game, which we've largely spoken about.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Which I think brings us to the end. Is there anything we've not covered, Alex, that you would like to bring up about the Ghostbusters movie? Any closing thoughts? The movie's a lovely time. The game isn't. I think all in all, for me, is an okay time.
Agreed. Yeah, it's it was nice to see something that felt as close to what I'd expect a Ghostbusters game to be that's actually been made. Because everything else just looked weird and off-brand and like it's just not anything to do with the original Ghostbusters movie, which is the only one I really like. And I really, really like it. I think it's an absolute classic 10 out of 10 film that has a sort of 6 out of 10 game many, many years later attached to it to some extent. But I think, like I said, if you're a really big fan of Ghostbusters and you haven't checked it out, I bought it for £2.29 on PC. Remember, the remastered version is definitely worth at least looking into for the first half before it gets really kind of bogged down.
Yeah, it's sort of the latter,
but it's not even that long. It's like
not that
5
long.
or 6 hours.
And yeah, I agree with you. It's the latter half of the game just becomes a bit frantic and shooty. But the first half, like when you're going around that hotel, you're definitely ghostbusting. And then you get the hotel that turns into that like almost like pirate water area. That's good fun. Yeah, it's a good old. It's an okay. It's an okay time. I was going to say it's a good old time. It's an okay time. And the first movie's great, really great,
really, really great.
And I'm going to watch the second movie after we've done this. I'm wide awake.
I am too.
So I quite fancy.
Let's give a brief update on the next episode. I think of what whether it is really that bad or not.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, what have we got, Alex? Are we?
We have got a reaction to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that's coming the week that this is going to be put out. It's on the 2nd of April, so we're recording this on the 29th of March. So really, really close to some specs, some launch titles, some pricing, some release dates, I hope. So we're going to have a big old chat about that. We're also going to chuck in our top 10 Switch games individually again. 10. My list, David's list. Yeah. I'm pretty pleased with mine. I'm still not sure about my number 1, but I think my 10, are pretty nailed on for the 10 that they are. I didn't include Tropical Freeze in the end because I've never played it on Switch. And even though it would be one of the best games on there, it's a Wii U game to me. And even though Breath of the Wild is a Wii U game and that will be in mine, it's I've got some, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm kind of by the seat of my pants flying into this top 10. I actually felt I felt bad, but Tropical Freeze is not in mine.
I felt a bit weird about
it.
It
would
list.
Be though.
It's like I've got in my top 10 list, I've got games that I didn't play on Switch, but I feel like are amazing Switch ports. However, like you say, there's games that are on Switch that I've not included on this list that I probably like better because they just didn't feel like Switch games to me, so they didn't make the list. Like
Yeah.
the list I've got, it makes sense to me and I'm pretty comfortable with it, but the actual it may seem like an odd list when I'm reading it out. But yeah, I've got 10, 11, 12. I've got 14 games on my list, so I need to cut. I'm pretty sure the four games that are not making the final. So I've ordered them. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, but I need a last glance to make sure that the four that aren't making it onto the final aren't gonna make it. I just need to think about them a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Which I guess,
Good.
yeah. So
I'm
we've
looking
got
forward
that.
to that. I'm
So
very excited for the
yeah, I
Switch
think
2 launch.
that will
At
be
the
fun.
moment,
Yes.
tentatively incredibly excited.
It'll be good. I think Nintendo
Ready to be let down.
up to this point, if you're into Nintendo consoles, they have got a good cadence of releasing one game a month. It's pretty good over the last couple of years of the Switch. So I have faith that they will have this ready. I think what's going to be interesting, and I've been listening to a podcast about this week, is that, as a little teaser for you, is that the interesting thing about Nintendo when they were coming onto the Switch is they basically had to sort of pull the ripcord in the Wii U and get out of there and get onto the Switch. So they didn't have to worry about transferring a fan base. Whereas at this point, they've got the sort of obviously good but interesting challenge of having a over 100 million active users on this platform, and they're going to have to try and ease them on to the next platform. I'm interested to see their approach to that, and I just suspect it means that the Switch is going to have a longer tail. It's going to be supported for a lot longer. They're going to continue to support it even after Switch 2 comes out, and they're just going to try and ease people onto the next console slowly rather than the hard stop new that they did with the Wii U. But we'll find out.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. But I guess that brings us to the end of another episode of the Winners You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to us on your podcast feed of choice? Or if you prefer to consume your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and consume our podcasts in a visual format. You can also visual format. You can head on over to YouTube and search for a Winners You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for you, the best place to get us these days is probably on BlueSky. At Thrillix for Alex, at Super Smiley for me, and at Winner Is You Pod for us. If you're one of the youngins, we've also got TikTok, so head over there and search for Winners You Pod if you so wish. Alex, any housekeeping?
Yeah, there should be a Video Game Hall of Fame episode out now. It will be on console launch titles, which was a fun episode to do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
However, I had about 3 that I was trying to decide between right up until the last moment, and did like a whole load of notes for
any
it,
console,
for one
any
game.
launch title.
Yeah, but I mean, we've already got a couple of them in the Hall of Fame already. Like Tetris is already in there, so that one was kind of out. And I wrote all my notes sort of in an hour or so before.
As a left fielder,
I failed to get that in already, so I gave up on trying to induct that one again. Nobody voted for it the first time, so
sons of bitches.
Yeah, so so I made all my notes on something, and then before I didn't get to go first, I went third, and Rob went second and picked Breath of the Wild, and then my Twilight Princess nomination just felt like it was obsolete, but I had to go for it because I'd only written notes about that, and I probably should have picked Luigi's Mansion instead. Hey, now there's a good Ghostbusting game. That's not a 6 out of 10.
That might be the best Ghostbusters game ever made.
It is. There's no question. It is.
Yeah, well, I guess on that bombshell, I've been David.
There you go.
He has been Alex, and we have been a Winners You, and I'm out.
Keep gaming. We're ready to believe you.